your show now, press 1. To hear
Your show is scheduled to start in 4 minutes, 13 seconds. Three minutes until showtime. Two minutes until showtime. One minute until showtime. Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
One of the biggest advantages that conservatives have is their media presence. Conservatives have a wealth of radio talk shows, podcasts, and YouTube channels that allow them to effectively spread their message. We should have the same on the left as well. This is why I want you to go to growleft.liberaldan.com. We are at a turning point in the history of this country. There is no reason why the ultra-conservatives and MAGA types should be as successful as they have been. Extremist conservative ideas are unpopular, while left-wing ideas like Medicare for all, abortion rights, and marriage equality are at all-time highs. But they have the messaging, and we need to build up our radio shows, podcasts, and YouTube channels to fight back against their extremist conservative messages. Liberal Dan Radio has partnered with Levelfield to help us use tools that are typically only available to big money donors. When you give a contribution at growleft.liberaldan.com, you will be doing two things. That money will be spent advertising causes on the left, like body autonomy, marriage equality, voting rights, and in support of or opposition of candidates. And that commercial airtime will be spent on smaller shows, podcasts, and YouTube channels to help them grow larger and be more successful. We get to kill two birds with one stone, but I can't do it alone. I need your help. So please go to growleft.liberaldan.com and make your contribution today. That's growleft.liberaldan.com. growleft.liberaldan.com. Political advertising paid for by Levelfield. Contributions are not tax deductible as charitable contributions.
Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming at you from New Orleans, Louisiana. To join the conversation, it's 914-803-4131, 914-803-4131. If you do want to call in before Hal gets here, you can call in. Just go ahead and leave a message in the chat saying what area code you're calling from over on YouTube, because we want to avoid any of those, troll callers. I want to make sure that people who call in are people who need to be calling in and not people who want to troll. Anyway, if you're listening, you can also leave your questions and comments in the chat as well over here on youtube.com/liberaldanradio. Please remember to like and subscribe. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subs by the end of the month. It's going to be tough to hit that milestone, but I think we can do it, and I need your help to do it. So, and if I do it, it'll be because of because of Hal Sparks and all of the sparklers, the fellow Hal Sparks types. So once I hit 1,000, I plan on doing several things monetarily to benefit Hal when that happens. So you can help Hal along the way as well, and you can do it for free. Just share videos, let everybody know, hey, we're trying to get this guy up to 1,000. If you're listening after the live broadcast, you can always leave your comments, questions, concerns over at the show thread at liberaldan.com, at facebook.com/liberaldan, and at liberaldan radio on Twitter, as well as here on YouTube as well. Again, at the bottom half of the hour at 8:30 my time central, 6:30 Hal's, we will be having Hal Sparks returning onto the show. I'm assuming he won't be falling asleep this time like he did last month, but it's all good. Wait, hold on. Trump needs to say something.
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. I actually last month, that was my first guess. I was like, he's very busy that day, and I was like, you know what? He probably fell asleep because he was doing a lot of stuff that day, and I was right. So there you go. Hey, Aaron, thank you for joining us. No worries about being late. Hakuna Matata. Hello, everybody who's coming over from Hal, and I don't know if Hal has finished his show yet, but he'll be here in about a half hour or so. You're very welcome, Holly Berry. I do like to, I do like to follow back people, especially if they're people who seem to be very active on Twitter. I might not follow back people, who have like 5 or 10 followers, because I think they restrict how many followers you can have. But at the end of the day, if you follow me, I want to follow you back just because I want to be supportive. If you subscribe to my channel, and if you have content on your channel, I want to subscribe back to you as well. Because I think everybody should be helping everybody to promote. Because as I talked about in the intro with my growleft.liberaldan.com, it's not just about fundraising to help spread liberal messages and promote liberal podcasts and blogs and YouTube channels and radio shows that, building up a farm team. It's also about, helping all of us helping out each other. So that's why over at liberaldan.com, I have a support these creators page that you can click on, and you can get links to Ken Ken's podcast, Ken and Andrea's podcast. I think Trucker linked over to Trucker John, TV2, and a bunch of other pages as well. Nimbus Yosh, the host of the most with the smooth sounds of the Percy podcast, as well as Demonox, Hal, and how to support everybody as well. And also, you can, if you can't afford to support me monetarily, you could always, again, subscribe, follow all the places I am on social media. But if you can, I have Venmo. You can buy me a cider. Go to liberaldan.com, click on the Buy Me a Cider button, or click the link that Aaron shared as well. Or you can go to patreon.com/liberaldan and support there for as little as $3 a month. What's up, Ballarasia? How's it going? Feet on the dashboard. Holly Berry, Ken, Suze, Kimchi, welcome. Thank you for coming back. Sandy, Dark Brandon, nice. Over on, I'm also Nerdy Dan at nerdydan.com, and I have twitch.tv/nerdydan.com as well. And last night, Aaron was with me, and some other folks were watching as well. Water Goddess, I believe, was well. And we, I finally won the easier version of the Cult of the Lamb game, and my cult name and Cult of the Lamb was the Cult of Dark Brandon. So that was fun, and I think tomorrow night I'm going to try and up the levels and try and win it on a more difficult setting. So you can also join me over there as well. I think we got everything out of the way in less than 8 minutes. So hey Les, how's it going? Appreciate you muchly. Let's see. I was talking about the fundraiser that I'm also trying to do a little bit later. Let's get to some of the topics first that I want to talk about before Hal gets on. We might talk with Hal about this as well. The first thing, I wanted to bring this up last week, and I'm fairly certain I forgot. I'm fairly certain that I forgot to bring this up, and that was the whole concept of quiet quitting. And now if I did bring it up and I'm just forgetting because I talked about a whole bunch of random stuff, because last week was more like a stream of consciousness than anything, I want to, it is what it is. Oh, sorry, that's Donald's line.
It is what it is.
But, there's a whole big controversy stirred up of so-called quiet quitting, or as other people like to say, acting your wage, which basically this whole idea comes down to that corporations feel that they're entitled to free labor, that they want to be able to get as much work out of you for as little money as possible. So they figured out a way to make you feel guilty over not doing enough work. And some corporations will say, hey, we'll reward you for going above and beyond, but then the reward is not much, if anything at all. I remember at a previous employer, I was there for some years now. Kimchi, I noisily quit. Nice. I almost noisily quit that one job as well. But I decided, look, my second kid was on his way. He was, I wanted to see if, maybe I could up my position in the company, see if putting in hard work was going to be worth my while, if that could show, if it would show that, hey, I'm willing to put in the extra effort, y'all are willing to pay me for it. Y'all are willing to reward me for it by getting raises. Now, in some jobs, if you do put in the hard work and work for that raise and they give you the raise, then your extra work that you're putting is an investment to your future paycheck. However, in some businesses, it's not. So the place that I was working at, I got the highest review score that year. It was clear that they recognized the fact that that's the best effort I had put in to that point at that job. And I got the lowest merit increase raise. And I'm just like, what? So when you do things like that, it makes it so that people don't want to bust their butt. They'll do, just like Office Space, they'll do the absolute minimum that they can do in order to not get fired. They will do their job to the letter in order to make sure that, they're going to keep getting employed, but they're not going to go above and beyond because there's no reason to go above and beyond. So, and I think that this whole, problematic, pushback by corporate America against this whole idea of quiet quitting is simply because they understand that people are getting what they're doing and they don't want them to stop, so they want to guilt you into doing it. And there's some people I had a guest on my show like years back named Joanne Schroeder. I really like her. She's a good author. She's good. She's a good reporter. She, knows her stuff. We agree on so much stuff, but she brought up the point that it's much easier for people of privilege to say that they're going to quiet quit, and then when they do that, it's going to negatively impact their other workers who are less likely to be able to do that. And I'm like, ultimately today, I'm all for understanding and recognizing your privilege. I'm all for doing that. But, it's not my job to put in extra work for my employer just to make other people feel good. We should have solidarity amongst the workers without me having to be guilted into doing more work that doesn't get compensated. So, dude, Les, it took me long to figure out a closed mouth don't get fed. One of the reasons I didn't make as much as my counterparts because I didn't ask. Wish it didn't have to be that way. Unfortunately, when you, I think in my previous job, like, you could ask for a raise. They didn't matter. You got raises, particularly, and your raises were tied to, your merit increases. So whatever your merit increase was, you would get your merit times whatever the raises were that year, and that's it. So they gave lower raises that year, and so I got a higher percentage of a lower amount. There was one year where they actually implemented a retention type of raise where a lot of the newer employees got like a little bit of a bump because they understood that they were underpaying their employees and they didn't want them leaving. But I don't think many people who I worked with there are still there, be they because they retired or because they found better work elsewhere. I think the only person that I know of who's still working there is somebody who's really bright, but he was able to navigate the system and get paid. Like they made exceptions for that guy all day long, and hey, more power to him. I'm not mad at him for that, but sometimes you got to know where the bodies are buried, I guess. Hey, Julie, what's going on? Julie Swenson, the first Liberal Dan Radio producer, subscribing at the producer level over at patreon.com. For a shout out to that. Also want to give shouts out to first Liberal Dan's patron, Demonox. You got Alan Drifter, i.e. Chris. Shouts out to Chris. He lost his mother today. Very sorry. Yesterday. So I'm very sorry for him for that. Big shouts out to you. Big love to you, man. We also got Aaron, Jolie, Wes. Missed anybody? Cesar from California. So anyway, so that was my little rant on quiet quitting. So I had wanted to get that out last week, but I had not gotten to do so. Let's go ahead. We're not going to take a commercial break, I think, until after Hal leaves. But I do have some bits. And most of the bits I think I'm also going to play after Hal leaves. But I do want to do, if I can find it. It's not that one. There it is. There's the link. Every week I try and do what's called the Hypocrite of the Week. So
this week's Hypocrite of the Week is South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham. Just weeks ago, Senator Graham said that the issue of abortion should be left to the states. Now he's introducing a bill in the Senate to ban abortions at 15 weeks nationwide. So much for so-called states' rights. Of course, states don't have rights. People have rights. States have power. And Republicans believe that they should have the power to infringe on the right to body autonomy. Remember that in November. To see who next week's Hypocrite of the Week will be, tune in to Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right. Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Central on youtube.com/liberaldanradio and on blogtalkradio.com/liberaldan.
There you go. So Lindsey Graham, I think this is the first time he was Hypocrite of the Week this year. He may have been Hypocrite of the Week previous years. Last year, the Hypocrite of the Year was Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. So, yeah, Aaron, thanks for liking the shirt. I kind of can't say I had the microphone in the way. I might have to adjust things, I guess, maybe during the break. I don't know. But, yeah, so I knew it was coming. Before even Lindsey Graham announced that he was going to do this, I was planning on asking the radio show host that I call in, who's a conservative guy. I was like, when are y'all going to start pushing for a nationwide ban on abortion? Because y'all say it's something that belongs in the states, that a state should decide. But that's not what y'all really believe. Y'all really want to have a nationwide ban. So you really don't believe that. You believe the other thing. And what's interesting is, Lindsey Graham is like, he just wants a vote. He just wants a vote to be able to be put on this issue. He wants them to be able to vote. He wants to get a vote. I'm like, good. Give him the vote. Let him have his vote in the Senate. I mean, it's not going to pass the House. Fine. So let him have a vote in the Senate. That's just another gift for the Democrats. Why? Because it's going to show which Republicans are willing to be hypocrites on the whole, well, it belongs in the states thing, and therefore drive more people to come out because they're mad about the overturning of Roe v. Wade. So it's going to cause them to come out more. And then you're going to see how many Republicans vote against it because they either really believe that it should be left to the states, or they understand that it's already a big political firebomb and that they don't want to touch it because they don't want more people mad at them. But that's just going to get the conservatives who want to see a nationwide ban on abortions, that's just going to make them not come out and vote for them. So it's a win-win. So let Lindsey Graham have his vote. It's probably one of the best things that you can do. And let him have the vote as you get closer to election day. Like before any early voting starts, but like right before any early voting starts. Have the vote then. Televise it nationwide. Let everybody see who's voting yay, who's voting nay. It could be the best commercial that you could have for getting out the vote and having a big blue wave this November. So Lindsey wants to have people talk about him, anything but his January 6th committee coming for him. Well, that's true too. I mean, they do like to do smoke and mirrors, but I think we can also walk and chew gum at the same time. So if we're able to do that, I think we can deal with what's going on with the January 6th committee hearing. I think in 2 weeks they're having the next hearing. I think it's scheduled for a Wednesday. I'm not sure. If it's the case, then I might either do a live stream of that for the podcast and then do the podcast afterwards, or I'll just do a follow-up with it the next day or something like that, or another day or a different day. Because again, I got to work. So got to do my full-time gig because this isn't my full-time gig yet. So apparently Zelensky was hurt in a car accident. Was it caused by Russia? Was it a car accident, or was it a car accident, or what is a car accident like the other mysterious deaths that are happening over in Russia? Let's see. One of the things I want to talk about is just the joke I kind of made over in Hal's chat as well, but it was scrolling so fast I'm not sure who saw it. But, you have this stuff with, the MyPillow guy, with Lindell. You have all these, MAGA folks getting arrested, getting subpoenaed, having their phones seized or whatever. Is this basically what cuffing season really means? Is this cuffing season? What for those of you who know what that is. Let's see. Hey, Elizabeth. Hey, Jeff. Hey, Sandy. Thank you for joining. Appreciate it. What else? Oh, there's the other thing that I want to bring. We just had, again, the 21st anniversary of 9/11. So anybody born on 9/11 can now drink, which somebody shared a sign that said, if you had to, in order to buy alcohol, you have to be born on or before September 11th, 2001. And I was just like, whoa, that's crazy. Because I remember exactly where I was that day, and everybody does. But one of the things that a lot of people will say and continue to say is, where were you? What's up, Teresa? Hey, Halle Berry. Where were you when just under 3,000 people died on 9/11? And look, the loss of lives, tragic, obviously, and we obviously should remember those who died. The less than 3,000 who died that day. It was an attack against this country. It's something that united the country together for a common cause for the most part. Nice, Elizabeth. But here's the thing. Like last year, I think yesterday or the day before, I had posted on Facebook, where were you when 190,000 people died from COVID? And now it's, where were you when 1 million Americans died from COVID? And that's one thing, is that we call the people terrorists who purposefully took actions to fly planes into the World Trade Center, to the Pentagon, who tried to attack, I guess, maybe the White House with the plane that came down in Pennsylvania. And rightfully so. I mean, they were clearly terrorists. But when the intent to do something is not necessarily, if you don't intend to do something, it doesn't excuse the harm that you do just because you didn't intend to do it. For example, if you go drunk driving, you might not intend to kill anybody, but the fact that you got behind the wheel and you're drunk and you end up killing somebody, you still get punished for that. It's still a crime. Why? Because you acted irresponsibly and very negligently so. So therefore, you are causing harm and you should get punished for the harm that you caused. So, all these people, like the people going to Sturgis, like I did my 3 bits, and if you want to hear them later, for Liberal Dance Chopper City, and I can play them later if you want. Just let me know if later after Hal gets off. I played one for Hal. He laughed, which was a high point of my week that week. But if you went to Sturgis and you refused to wear a mask and you refused to socially distance and you refused to follow the guidelines that the health experts were telling you to do, and you cause more people to die. And I'm not going to, and including Donald Trump and including the Republican governors who refused to follow, these guidelines and didn't want to, shut down the country, or they wanted to basically allow places to be open and without restriction, stuff like that. People who wanted, DeSantis wanted to, called him a hypocrite of the week one week because he wanted to, he believed businesses should be able to run without being impeded by government, except for when businesses were doing something that he didn't like. For example, when cruise ships were coming into the terminals in Florida, and DeSantis said you can't require them to wear masks in Florida. Well, why are you telling these private businesses what they can or cannot do when it comes to passengers on their ships? Huh? It's hypocritical. But it's also your negligence as a leader, but Trump, DeSantis, Abbott, any of the other big time, whoever is I forget the name of the governor of South Dakota, but that's where Sturgis took place. Letting those big events happen, letting those big massive groupings happen. The Tulsa rally that killed Herman Cain. That the only reason that more people didn't die from the Tulsa rally is because of all the kids on TikTok who basically got together and organized buying up all the tickets. So they sold out and they had to have plans for, outside viewing on a big monitor. And it turned out, well, they didn't need that because they really didn't have that many tickets sold, because it was all the people that were signing up to go were people who were not ever going to go because they were doing it to troll Trump and his campaign. But you spread a lot of stuff there. I mean, I think just from Sturgis, I think the math on Sturgis is they basically said that about 260,000 people probably got COVID from Sturgis because of the large amount of people that went to Sturgis, and then all of them went back to their hometowns. And then the COVID that was spread at Sturgis then spread in their hometowns. So if the death rate of COVID is 2%, then that means 5,000 people could have died from Sturgis, which is over the amount of people that died from 9/11. So why should we not look at those people as badly as we look at the terrorist? I mean, and in my Facebook thread about that, on my personal page, someone was like, well, what about intent? I'm like, intent's irrelevant because of the whole drunk driving thing. You don't intend to kill people when you drive drunk, but when you do, you're held responsible for it. It's easy as that. Let's see. No smoking in bars, restaurants. People going to live longer versus decades ago. That's another thing. People were, I think I discussed this previously on another show, that people were complaining about smoking and people, banning smoking in bars. And I'm like, well, it used to be you could smoke in an airplane. And it's ridiculous that we allowed people to smoke in airplanes 70 years ago, maybe now at this point, at least, maybe 60, maybe 50. But there is there are people who are alive today who flew in airplanes where they smoked in the flying tin can, and they had smoking and non-smoking sections, but does that really matter when you're on a tin can flying through the air? No. So we've taken, because the basic thing is that You should have the right. I'm all for individual rights. I'm all for body autonomy. I'm all for the right of you to do whatever it is that you want to do, as long as it's not harming anybody else, and as long as everybody who's doing it with you consents. Well, when you start smoking, if you're smoking in a restaurant that those waiters and waitresses can't consent, you shouldn't be able to smoke. You shouldn't be able to subject other people to your smoke. If you want to smoke in your house, fine. You want to smoke in your car, fine. You want to smoke outside where you're not near anybody, fine. It's your choice to do that. You shouldn't get to put other people at risk. And the same logic should have applied to COVID. But again, we had a president who admitted that he didn't want to step down. Say 26. I don't think is that Hal? Did anybody from the call from the chat room? Let me know. I don't think that's Hal, but let's give it a few minutes. If that's Hal, hit 1 and hit 1 again. Like I said, it could be anybody or whatever. I don't think that's Hal's number. Let me look. I think I have it somewhere. Let's see. First and foremost, the first thing I'm going to do before we do get to Hal, I did want to talk about if that is Hal. Yeah, and again, I'm sorry about the slight delay in getting to you, because I do want to make sure, because we did have some some trolls call in and drop the N-word and the C-word just repeatedly, and it was clearly Bald Thanos says Hal's cat is calling. That very could well be. Which one? Is it Chip? Let's see. But anyway, I did want to talk about one quick thing before we flip over, which is I did have a friend of mine my friend of mine is having to deal with their child being abused by the domiciliary parent with whom they share custody. But the other parent is domiciliary, and they've been abusing the kid. I put the link in chat right now, and if you can give like $5 or whatever, cool. If you can't, do me a favor and just share it on your Facebook and help. I would really want to help my friend pay the legal fees in order to make sure that they can get their kid into a safe situation, and maybe they can get domiciliary custody over their child. So anyway, let's go ahead. I'm just going to risk it and say that this is Hal. Is this Hal?
No, hi, this is Mike.
Oh, hi, Mike. How's it going? What's going on?
How you doing, sir?
Good. What do you want to talk about?
I wanted to talk about you were mentioning about COVID,
right?
Handling of the pandemic.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out, and I'm saying this from a conservative viewpoint, and I think the reason there was a big division in the country as far as how people view the pandemic or the handling of it, and the issue of masks and the vaccine mandates and school closures and things of that nature, I think it comes down to how people view government, right? So, for example, if you're a liberal, most liberals, I don't know for you specifically, but most liberals generally have a positive view of government and are more trustworthy of the government, whereas most conservatives, I'm sure you would know, have a more skeptical view and a less trustworthy view of the government, right? And so what we saw, most people, what you would see as safety measures, right? People on the right would see government overreach. And I think that's where people were having this issue of, when it comes to their positions and doing things differently. And I think that's kind of why the division was there. It just comes down to people's perspectives on the matter.
I mean, there's that, but I don't necessarily say that I trust government. I mean, I have much more concerns. Like, a lot of conservatives don't like the federal government and want things at the local level. But I have more of a problem with the government at the local level, because that has a possibility to more directly affect me and more directly affect people in a negative way. So I don't trust government in and of itself. I do think that government has particular roles. I wish there were less laws. There are definitely laws that should not be there, especially laws that prevent people from doing things that aren't harming anybody. But my thing is that one of the main goals of government is to protect people and entities from other people and entities. That is the main number one goal, I think, of government. So to put forward guidelines that say, look, we're in the middle of a pandemic where, we're not quite sure at the beginning of how all of this is spreading, so we want to be safe because we're seeing death rates that we're uncomfortable with. We don't like what we're seeing, so we want to make sure to take cautionary measures to make sure that we do things like masking and social distancing, etc. And because of that, if Donald Trump, honestly, because while there are a lot of conservatives that might not like government, but a lot of those same conservatives love and trust Donald Trump implicitly. That might, as you say, how you classify liberals, that might not be me. That might not be you specifically when it comes to when it comes to how you feel. But there's a large amount of people who trust Donald Trump, and I think had Donald Trump at the very beginning said we need to come together as a country to fight this virus and wear a mask. It's your patriotic duty to wear a mask. He could have sold MAGA masks on his campaign website and it would have sold out in minutes. He could have encouraged social distancing. Again, I think people on the right would have been much more likely to listen to him and follow his lead if he would have been a leader on that. But unfortunately, like he admitted to Woodward, he admitted to Woodward that he downplayed the threat. He admitted that he downplayed the threat. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, he wanted to slow down testing for only because it made him look bad. Only because by testing more, you saw more numbers, even though an aggressive testing strategy would have enabled us to maybe restrict nationwide lockdowns and maybe do targeted lockdowns of hotspots and not lock down other areas where hotspots weren't happening. But because he was afraid of how the numbers would look, because he wants to sugarcoat everything, that's why he wanted to slow down testing to not eliminate it, but to slow it down to a point.
Right, but let's use a different example, because I think in a lot of times it's not a blind allegiance people have towards Trump on the right. I'll give you an example. Use a matter of vaccine. Did you see by any chance the interview when Candace Owens was interviewing Trump and the issue of vaccines came up? And obviously Candace Owens is on very much an anti-vax position. Right. And essentially her and Trump were arguing over the issue. And I think when it comes to vaccines, Trump was very adamantly pro-vaccine, pushing it, saying everyone should get vaccinated. At no point was he ever anti-vax, right? You would acknowledge that, true?
He did come out, he came out, and even after he lost and after he left office, he was on stage, I think, with Bill O'Reilly, encouraging people to get vaccines. But he basically by saying, look, I got it, if you should get it too. But he also doesn't want to force people via, I guess, the whatever coercive measures that conservatives would say are implemented. Mandates. But we have those same sort of measures
which is
for other
coercion,
vaccines.
By the way. That is coercion.
We have other
to mandate a vaccine is coercion. Number one. That's number one. Mm-hmm. Number two, when it comes to, and then recently, have you seen the recent, there was a Senate hearing where Rand Paul was questioning Dr. Fauci. And in that, he was asking him, the issue of immunization came up. And he played a clip during the Senate hearing from Dr. Fauci in 2004 when he was on C-SPAN. And the discussion had to do with the flu vaccine at that time. And a caller brought up the issue of, if I had the flu, do I still need to get vaccinated? And in the video clip, you see Dr. Fauci say, the best form of immunization is actually being infected with the disease itself. And that's an actual stronger form of immunity than getting vaccinated. And he played that clip to Fauci, and they started a discussion along those. And he asked him why, in all the studies and data that the CDC and the FDA were using, why wasn't the issue of whether or not someone was infected brought up in determining, efficacy of or how effective immunity is with a vaccine versus people who are unvaccinated? And they went down that road, and it's clear that in the data they neglected that completely. And it's for an obvious reason. And this gets to the tail end of what Rand Paul was asking, when he brought up the issue of royalties, and if there's any conflict of interest with anyone on the boards of the FDA or the CDC or anyone that approved these vaccines or the mandates or were pushing that. And Dr. Fauci in a previous Senate hearing talked about how, we don't have to disclose that. And Rand Paul ended with a statement saying, after January, if the Republicans take the Senate, we're going to change the rules, and we're going to force you to have to disclose who got royalties, who got paid by the pharmaceutical industries, and if there's any conflict of interest on any of these boards that made their decisions. In my personal opinion, that's clear cut, because the vaccine issue to me was much more of a financial issue. Now, you may disagree with that. You may think, oh, this is really about saving lives and other people. I just see the mountain of money that was made. It was a mountain. Companies like Pfizer and others made a gigantic amount of money off of this whole thing. And there were a lot of politicians who were paid off in the process. And so there's a lot of other questions to be asked, and there's a lot of questions to be asked when it comes to the data. Why were certain things ignored and certain things allowed? Because it seems to me that they were trying to get a certain result that would justify putting into place things like mandates. Right?
Okay.
I mean, for example, with children.
Wait, hold on. I got to cut you off for a second. I let you have a very long time to speak. I do disagree with one thing, in simply because of the fact that in my school district in New Orleans, and New Orleans is very liberal, the policies when it came to whether or not you needed to like quarantine or not, or depending on exposure, did take into consideration whether or not you had been tested positive for COVID within the last 90 days. They took into the effect the protective measures of being infected with the virus in determining whether or not you needed to quarantine at home or whether or not you could stay at school. And there is a study in the Israel study that did say that you had good efficacy when it came to being positive with COVID, at least for a while, but they also said that getting an additional booster on top of that made your protection even better. And the reason I had to cut you off, sir, real quick, I'm sorry, but we do have our guest on the show, friend of the show from Hal Sparks, Mega Worldwide, infotainmentwars.com, fellow Hal Spark types. Please welcome Hal Sparks to the show.
Thanks. It's great to be here. Hi, Liberal Dan. And can I quickly jump in on that dude's question as well?
Sure, absolutely.
Or rather, his statement/minor diatribe.
Yeah, sure.
That is, for all practical purposes, just for the record, that is a garbage talking point based on lunacy, and it is, there is no basis for that kind of silliness. It's simply ridiculous. Do pharmaceutical companies make money on the vaccines they put out? Yes. Do they make money on the vaccines that don't work, or that they research for a long time and then end up not putting out? No, they do not. And so one of the idea that if we had one pharmaceutical company in this country, like they do, like with Sinovac in China,
right?
If we had one, and that company had the only vaccine to the only version of the disease and all that kind of stuff, you might have a point. But not only do we have dozens of companies that were competing to solve this problem that humanity was facing, to which, by the way, China is still locking down, all the time.
Right.
We had a myriad of pharmaceutical industries, universities, individual researchers and groups that were trying to come up with the most effective and quickest way to push back against this disease that had been sprung on us relatively quickly, in a short order, that had, while it's for the general public over time, we would find that if you're generally healthy, you might not have to worry about dying from it, but you might get long-term, like long COVID, or you might get lung disease from it. So not knowing, it's better to be cautious than pretending and just going, it's nothing, it's like the flu, and then people are dropping like flies. The assertion that this is all a big pharmaceutical money grab, I hear it from Russell Brand all the time. You hear this crap from Jimmy Dore, is this pile on about Pfizer somehow because theirs was the most efficacious and the quickest. And
right.
Every single one of these talking points, there's a Russian precursor to it every single time. And it's predicated on the idea that the Sinovac didn't work. The Russians stole what information they had in the early part of testing from the AstraZeneca trials, which turned out not to be the most efficacious vaccine for it. As a matter of fact, the United States passed on AstraZeneca. We bought a bunch from everybody just in case the right one, we didn't know who was going to come up with it. They were all competing. Ultimately, the AstraZeneca was not helpful, didn't actually do the job ultimately the Russian vaccine is less efficacious specifically because they stole their information from there, and they even on their way out the door planted fake trial evidence on the servers that they took it from to undermine the NHS, creating and putting out the vaccine by delaying it. So, and the other aspect of this that comes up a bunch is this idea that it's all based on lockdowns. This is all about control. Right. They want to control the people, and this is how they do it. Okay, first of all, how did that work out? All it did is trigger most of the lunatics in the country who wouldn't take the same people that won't leave a hurricane zone when their house is made out of plywood and when they're in the direct path of a Cat 5 hurricane.
Right.
It just brought all those people out to bear. That's all it did. It didn't create a situation like you're not any more apt to follow orders now that you've been through masking and all this crap now than you were then. It's an absurdity.
Right.
So,
and here's the thing. Here's one of the absurd parts of the conspiracy theory is that they say that they put all of this horrible stuff to kill you in the vaccine, and then they want you to take. They want you to be sheep to take it. I'm like, to me, the way if they would want people who would follow and be quote be sheep, they would have released the virus to kill the people who wouldn't take the vaccine, and then the people the sheep who would take the vaccine would be the ones that would remain, and the other people would be killed off. So it's a bass-ackwards type of conspiracy theory.
Quite frankly, it's a lot simpler, as a strategy. If you wanted to depopulate the planet down to 144,000 people or whatever lunacy they want to believe, what you would do is you would create a highly transmissible disease, and that would be the methodology you would use to kill everybody. And then you would only give a functioning vaccine to those you wanted to survive.
Right.
Well, the idea that you could only depopulate the world by the number of people you can get needles in arms just shows how stupid the people who believe this crap are about just the baseline, the Marshall Plan level activity it would take to needle everyone on Earth to death. You want to kill, according to them, 7.5 billion people, right? Minimum.
Right.
And the way to do it is not through the contagious disease, which would be the easiest way possible. It's by talking them all into letting you needle them 3, maybe 4 times. It's idiotic. It's insane. It's childish. It's a waste of breath. And the fact that these folks are so committed to that part of it is stunning to me. That I for a while there I was, because there's money making in the healthcare industry. There's certainly an argument for a long time, like the idea has been around for a long time that there's a spark plug you never have to change, and the big 3 stopped from getting it because they make too much money selling spark plugs. Like, we grew up with that story, right? Well, there was no such thing. There was no uncorroding spark plug at that time. It didn't exist. It was silly. That was dumb. It was something that hadn't been invented yet. And as soon as it was invented, you could get it, and you haven't changed a spark plug in your car unless you're a collector for 3 decades.
Right.
They didn't hide it. They put it in everything. So, and they went, what they sold you on? Paint. They sold the economics of the vehicle, not the functional part that might leave you stranded on a road somewhere. It's just more like the idea, and that like what I would call like soft res, like low res conspiratorial thought. It's like it's not quite the Earth is flat and where aliens are drinking baby milkshakes.
Chemtrails.
But it's right, yeah. It's
actually
it's closer to
chemtrails makes more sense as a conspiracy theory than the vaccine conspiracy theory, because that at least if they were putting crap stuff in the air, then yeah, that makes more sense than the idea that you're going to give. And like, imagine if the vaccine were, was created to kill people, like, it would have to take a very slow time because of the long time it would take to actually.
Why wouldn't you just if you're chemtrailing? Why don't you just put it in the chemtrails?
Right.
If you've got this thing that's going to depop everybody, and you have an antidote for it, like, that's the part that, like, do these people have to spend no time, like, even thinking about the chess moves required to be evil, truly evil?
Right.
You know how, like, much work it was for the Nazis to just try to wipe out one group of people, and you think that all the Nazis in the world are somehow magically gone? Of course not. And if the process of depopulating the Earth down to just your type was as easy as everybody thinks it is, somebody'd have done it a decade ago.
Right.
It's just so tiring after a while. Like,
well, they just like to throw spaghetti at the wall. They love to throw spaghetti at the wall, see what sticks. Like with the whole birther controversy, Barack Obama was both not born in the United States and so therefore not a citizen, but also lost his citizenship when his parents moved him to Indonesia. Like, which is it? Was he not a citizen at birth, or was he? Like, it's conflicting things because they're just hoping that one of them's going to stick and that people be like, oh, that makes sense, but it never really does.
Well, that's, again, you really can find a step up since 2009 of like Russian disinfo and that kind of stuff, and a little bit of Iranian stuff, a little bit of North Korean stuff, and a little bit of Chinese stuff. But mostly the Russians were the ones that had been working on it the longest. And the internet just gave them a new road, a new avenue to allow them to, to pump this garbage out. And the example I always give is the moon landing.
Right.
I got news for you. We landed on the moon multiple times. It took a lot of work. People spent, their lives and livelihoods and put their lives in jeopardy all the time trying to make it happen. We did it multiple times. We shifted to a better system to in terms of being on the moon is one thing, but having satellites and surrounding the Earth with a grid was way more important. So we shifted to that, and for all practical purposes, the space shuttle became a satellite launching and arranging facility, because as it got crowded up there, it meant a lot to put them in the right place, and having a space station eventually would need this kind of stuff too. So that was it. It's that. I mean, it's not. We're not. This is pretty practical. The decisions NASA were making were incredibly practical all the time.
Right.
But the Russians, at one point, decided they didn't have the money or the means or the wherewithal or even the intellectual capacity at one point to do anything like this, to actually make it to the moon. They knew they could, like satellites and stuff, they didn't give a crap if their astronauts died, so they could send capsules up, no skin off their nose. But retrieving them, setting them down on the surface and then retrieving them, is, you have to actually give a shit. You actually have to care whether your astronauts survive, whether they're healthy when they come back, because you've got a longer mission in it, more than just showing off to the Soviets. So they didn't bother. And what they realized was it was way cheaper just to convince a bunch of dummies in the United States who were, edgelords and weren't sure that they liked the federal government anyways, like states' rights racists and other morons in the country, just convince them that it never happened.
Right.
And you don't have to prove it. You just have to constantly leave this doubt. Well, that constant seed of doubt, by the way, fed into all the other dumb conspiracies that people believe, like conspiracy on the half shell. None of them are based on, like Ponzi schemes and crap that actually happened. It's all just like these little like ego pissing contests that half drunk guys can say at bars about, they took us off the gold standard because they're going to replace it with the Iraqi dinar, like that kind of stuff. It's all based on the same framework. It's all based on whatever your country is doing that's good, behind the scenes is something that's not only not helpful or not useful or not functional, but is worse than the cure is worse than the disease. And if you can just convince a populace that their cure is worse than the disease, you can walk them anywhere. They will give up on anything.
And that's what Trump kept on saying. Trump kept on saying,
Yeah.
we don't want the cure to be worse than the disease. And DeSantis said that too. And everyone repeated that bogus thing with no evidence. I told people, I was like, look,
None.
if you have evidence that will show me that by keeping everybody, socially distanced and locked down and in their houses, it's going to kill more people than will die from not doing that, then I'll listen to you. But no one could provide that evidence because it didn't exist.
No. Well, and because we only did it as long as we needed to do it.
Right.
We did it, based on the information that we had and to the point where we could get enough of the populace vaccinated so that people can interact, and the disease doesn't have enough limbs to go to monkey branch its way through the public.
Right.
That's what a vaccine ultimately does. Not everybody in a populace has to be vaccinated to stop the spread of a disease, just enough to keep it from jumping, especially when it's more likely to spread or more likely to create a viral load in someone if they're highly symptomatic. Even with like Omicron and stuff, which was very, very contagious, but you had a low viral load caused by it because it just wasn't as deadly. It was just, the flu and the common cold are very contagious and less deadly. That's
right.
Usually how diseases go, because the more deadly they are, the less of a chance the disease has to spread and replicate, because it kills its host too quickly.
So, and the thing that I was amazed with, though, is that, everybody, when we were all social distancing, and when many of us were social distancing, and we were and masking was required to go into places, and that winter the flu was pretty much non-existent. And instead of taking that as, masking and social distancing and vaccines work to prevent the flu from spreading, so that's a good thing, and maybe we can apply it to COVID, they were like, nope, that's just another proof of the conspiracy. I'm like, what? It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's again, these folks, this is a personal ego agenda that the people like that have. When you talk about like somebody like Bernie Madoff engaged in or credit default swaps, where there's a combination of people making money off of effectively a criminal enterprise of junk bond trading and garbage like that, and that exists. That exists, and then there's there will be a combination in those situations of people who are in on it and benefiting from it, and a bunch of dummies who follow along or think they're going to get rich on it and don't realize yet that they're the suckers in this process. Like there's those and that's a material conspiracy by both the people who engage in it when they're swindling people, the people who are like soft peddlers of it, who, in many ways, like think that all they need is, let me get a piece of this action, even if it turns out to be baloney, like crypto. There's still money to be made, even if it turns out to be crap, right?
Right.
That part. It'd be the people who are selling like gold is real money. Those people. And then there's a combination of the swindle. There's the people who get tricked by it, and there's always material evidence of it after the fact. Lots of it. There's, you can see where people were, scratching out lines in ledgers and replacing, real information with fake information, or gussying up the facts to try and, make themselves look better at the time, right? They worked the book. They had two sets of books, or they specifically, manipulated the one set that they had. The problem with a lot of the conspiracy theories about Pfizer and all this kind of stuff is that the only thing you see is the fact that Pfizer was the more successful of the vaccines. The fact that its efficacy is studied and well documented,
right? And
that the after effects that you might have seen that they were worried about with myocarditis, for example, from the AstraZeneca or the J&J specifically, because J&J was a traditional, not an mRNA.
Right.
But that doesn't feed the narrative of new scary technology from the sort of like neo-Luddite, Marianne Williamson crystal crowd.
Right.
You can't feed that. You're not feeding them treats by talking about old-fashioned, regular, yeah, we got a dead version of the virus and we replicate it and we put it in there. And then from that, your body develops an immunity, like yawn. We know how those work.
Right.
Some of them don't work fast enough, and they can't be tailored fast enough over time to a specific infectious disease. And if we had a new technology like mRNA, we would be able to literally dial in genetically each one of these diseases so it doesn't do anything else. There should be no ancillary problem with any of the good bacteria or any of the stuff that you have in your body, even viruses that we've accommodated over time that don't really bother us anymore, that cause an immune response and a freak out in our system. You should be able to buy, with modern technology and all the available science we have today, you should have access to that. You should be able to, use it. But it sounds scary to this group of people, and it can be weaponized on the ignorance. It's not scary. The old-fashioned vaccines, like the story of them causing autism and all that kind of stuff doesn't fly. That ship has sailed. It doesn't work anymore. So the new boogeyman on the block is mRNA, and it'll become the normal system that we all use in the future for vaccines. And people will go, what were you guys doing before you had mRNA vaccines? Oh, we would just, it'll be the same conversation around fossil fuels. We used to burn fossilized dinosaur goo, for fuel to keep ourselves alive, right? There was a black rock would get set on fire, and it was nasty, but it kept us warm, like that kind of stuff. So there's always going to be, you can always play on that neo-Luddite fear that people have, right? But the essence of, what that guy was talking about is based on this kind of like anti-capitalism, pseudo-Marxist, corporate boogeyman concept that's been around since, quite frankly, the Soviet Union and arguably to a lesser degree from like pre-Xi Jinping, to now, and then like pre Jiang Zemin, perhaps. During that window, you had from that tiny window of Jiang Zemin to Xi Jinping, you had they would just crap talk corporations, and businesses as somehow evil. The market itself is, the words like market, corporation, all the kinds of, were made as boogeyman as if they're all created equal, and so you can kind of piggyback these stories on it. And then the problem is when there are bad corporations or there are bad actors out there, when there are the Bernie Madoffs or there are Enrons or whatever, there's no distinction made in the argument. It's just like they're all that way, they just haven't been caught yet, which is just, like, especially coming from the people that are against over incarceration, is hilarious, because it's exactly the same bias, just pointed in a different direction. You just have a different enemy in your head.
Right.
Other than that, I have no opinion.
Nice. Quick shout out to now I forgot the name of the individual. There it is, Robert Reynolds. I almost said Ryan Reynolds, but no, it's not Deadpool. Robert Reynolds gave me bought me a cider or bought me a coffee. So shout out to him. Thank you very much. But yeah, so I guess the one really important question to ask, though, did Lindell ever get his Hardee's?
No, his buddy ate it, but there's no evidence that Lindell ever got his meal and consumed it. We never got around to that. I want to believe that he was just eating it and spitting it all over the FBI guys while he was blathering about, his conspiracy theory ideas, his neo-Luddite bullshit. But no, I don't. We still don't know what he even ordered, if at all.
But did they pull him out of the line? I don't know this. Did they pull him out of the line to handle all this stuff, or were people stuck behind him in line, not being able to get their fried peach cream pies or whatever?
Yes, right. In the theory, he was in the drive-thru alone, and then 3 cars pulled up and they surrounded him, and they said, "We're FBI, get out of your car." And they ended up pulling his car out of the drive-thru. Like he drove it over, or his buddy drove, because I don't think he was driving. pulled over out of the way, and then the other 3 cars kind of blocked them in where they were, so that other people, I guess, could continue to enjoy Hardee's.
Enjoy in quotes.
Yes. Right.
I haven't eaten at Hardee's.
Twice.
I haven't eaten at Hardee's since at least 2015, simply because of the fact that the former CEO of them was very anti-ACA and was like spreading all these lies in some interview about how all my employees rejected the Affordable Care Act or didn't want to get an Obamacare. And I'm like, what? And I just tore him apart on my podcast and on my blog about like all of the problems that I had. I was like, you know what? I'm never gonna eat there again because I don't want to support that crap. So I wouldn't know how good or bad.
Well, I have to say it's been a while, and I grew up in Kentucky.
Right.
There were a lot of Hardee's and Arby's, both of them.
Right.
And for the longest time, I would always get them kind of mixed up. And I was like, which one's the one with the shaved meat? That's Arby's. Okay,
right.
Well, let's go to Arby's. That was my thing when I was a kid. Because it at least looked real, like it was meat, not a patty, and that was their distinction, right? And I basically lived for a period of time on ham and cheese sandwiches. I think the initial cells in my body for the better part of 3 decades were made out of ham and or cheese. And so the information in this situation, I don't blame the people at Hardee's, who work there per se, but it does not surprise me that that's the place he chose to go when you're telling me this. You know what I mean? It like Mike Lindell is the kind of guy who would go to Hardee's because that's the place that's owned by the guy who didn't like the Affordable Care Act and Obama wasn't born in America. Right. He's the kind.
I do think that I think Aaron had corrected me that that might not be the current CEO. I think it's Puzder or whatever is the guy's last name. But still, again,
sure.
I have no information that says that they've changed their corporate mentality on the thing either. So until they prove to me otherwise, I'll be happy to not go to Hardee's.
Sure, right. I mean, I'm not tripping over myself to go to either of those places these days, And it always amazes me when people become millionaires when they continue to eat fast food. We eat fast food in our world because we have to. Right. You know what I mean? Fast food is have to food, not want to food.
Right.
One of the reasons why you try to do a little better in your life is so you can feed you and yours better quality food.
Right.
Don't think for a second. It's not a good thing overall, a net plus in the history of humans on the planet that you can get more calories than you need for the day from one meal at one place.
Right.
Like most of the humans that ever lived died never experiencing that. Every fistful of food was a day's work. So let's be real clear that it can be misused like anything else, but it's a net plus that working people especially, you can get enough food in your gullet to keep you going and alive and have good ideas and continue your life and move beyond your station and move up in life because of that. That said, once you can, knock it off and feed yourself better, do better by your body,
Right.
So that, And especially people with money shouldn't eat at fast food restaurants because they'll go, oh, these people eat here. Like Michael Lindell talks about eating here. So people with means show up all the time and we can charge more.
Right.
Just from a marketing standpoint.
Well, there's Donald Trump and his hamburgers, so,
Right. Well, no.
Kentucky Fried Chicken too, right?
Fish Delight.
Yeah.
Huh?
What is it?
He eats Fish Delight. He eats the Filet-O-Fish.
Oh, okay.
That's his go-to thing. He eats like whatever, well done steak, which is just what a disgusting notion.
Right.
And while he's with ketchup all over it, with like a classic American asshole traveling overseas. You know what I mean?
Right. Now, I'm convinced with the well-done steak thing that there may very well be people who maybe years and years and years ago. Like, they were poor, they could only afford like the questionable meat, so they had to cook it all the way through to make sure that it wouldn't kill them. And maybe now those families may have grown a taste to it, but eventually when you try the good stuff, you like, I think I convinced my wife, like, at one point, to like, she tried at one of her work events, she had some medium rare filet mignon, and she was like, this is delicious, and she's never eaten a more well-cooked steak again. So
it's like seared tuna. You know, there's a reason. You know, there is a flavor to it. You don't just cook the shit out of it and eat it out of a can. It's okay. But you know, I think the thing you landed on that I think that's crucial in this conversation is that, you know, you were exposed to sort of poverty meat and you had to act accordingly. I grew up that way. I never had a medium well piece of meat in my upbringing until I lived in Chicago, till I had grown up, you know, till I was, you know, maybe 15, 16 years old in Chicago, eating at a nice restaurant that my dad took me to, because he was like, this is what real food tastes like. But in Kentucky, I'd never eat something rare. Are you out of your mind? It came from Kroger's. God knows what the hell's in it. You know, just cook the crap out of it, slather it in A1, and hope for the best.
Right.
So, you know, and I get that. Trump never had that experience. He's a second-generation rich kid.
Right.
He eats that way because he's a toddler. He eats that way for the same reason my buddy Bumper, when we go to a sushi restaurant, has chicken teriyaki, because he's not an adult.
Right.
But that's why. Because it's scary. That's weird. I don't know. Raw fish, that's weird. You know, it's like he's older than me, and that's his reaction.
That's just bait.
And so there's yeah, right. It's just no. Like, it just points to sort of a lack of maturity and also, I might add, high ick factor. Now, we know that conservatives especially have a very high ick factor. They get grossed out easily, and you can tell you know, the depth of somebody's conservatism by how easily grossed out they are by things.
Right.
And I don't mean just like you know, blood and guts kind of stuff, like slugs and you know, like the more they ick out about babies' diapers, like Trump never changed a diaper, none of that stuff. He was grossed out by it, and that informs how he sees the rest of, you know, you can't see just one thing that way.
Right.
If gooey, icky things bug you, you're going to extrapolate that onto a myriad of things, and it's the root of their anti-gay thoughts. You know what I mean? Like they stack, ew, but that's ew.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's where they go. But that doesn't have anything to do with you. Shut up.
Right. Exactly.
Like, why did you go there? Knock it off. But that's where they live. They live in that, like, ick. I mean, he can't even talk about death. Of course he's going to cook the shit out of a steak.
Right. Now, one thing I had thought of, maybe this is a conspiracy theory or not, but it's probably not true, is that, you know, with all of the people who were, you know, all of the Trump supporters getting their phones seized or whatever, at what point will one of those Trump supporters decide, well, let me carry, like, a fake phone on me so when they seize it, they don't get the real phone? So I was wondering, would Lindell have done that? And I'm like, nah, he's not smart enough to figure that out.
No, but he went back to the office and he was using his IT lady's phone to text people. And I'm like, what a dick move. Now, if you're messaging people like, they got my phone, watch out, they might get yours, that's an evidence
right
text. That's a conspiratorial text.
And then that could be who sent the text then? Is it Lindell sending it, or is the other one, or is that implicating the IT lady? Now, she may very well be implicated as well, but
right.
Still.
They're going to seize her phone. Yeah, they seized her phone. She's now a co-conspirator. It's just like, it's such a jerk move. Like, dude, you're a millionaire.
Right.
Go buy another phone. Tell Verizon or AT&T or whoever you're with to switch the phone number to this phone. Bitch about it like crazy. Talk about it on your show. Write it off because you talked about it on your show that's really for entertainment purposes, which will be his defense against the whole, Dominion thing when it comes home to roost. And then and leave your staff out of it. Why are you these people? That's not her job. What the hell's wrong with you?
Right.
So
shouts out to Leslie Shaw. I just saw that she Venmoed me $25. So appreciate you, Leslie, for doing that as well. Thank you very much. Just want to make sure I get that out.
Right. Yeah. Totally.
It's always nice when you get those notifications.
Yes, it is. It's lovely. It's nice to be supported, and I always watch these folks prattle about support independent media and that kind of stuff, and I hate the sound of those words coming out of my mouth. There are few words, like phrases, I hate more than thank you for supporting live comedy. That it's just whenever a host or somebody at a comedy club says those words out loud, I'm embarrassed for everybody on the lineup. Thank you for supporting live comedy. Shut up.
I can tell when you're on your show and you're saying, hey, subscribe, like this, do this, you super chat, whatever. I can tell that you're somewhat uncomfortable with it or whatever. But I've been trying to do this thing.
I hate it.
I've been trying to do this thing where it's called Grow Left, where it's trying to grow the minor league, the farm teams, because that's one thing where liberal radio shows and podcasts and YouTube channels don't have enough to compete against the conservative ones. So we need to build up the farm team. So because we have the Stephanie Millers and the sexy liberal comedy tour, and you have all those people, and even though we might not agree with them a lot, there's the Young Turks out there, which spawned the name where I came up with the hashtag Je suis Hal Sparks for the name of the show, simply because of the fact that
yes, right,
all of us Hal Spark types, the
Hal Sparkses of the world. I'm the Negan of corporate Dems or something, right? We're all Negan. We'll just all stand outside and whistle.
So I have been kind of hinting here and there that when I get to 1,000 subs, which at that point I can become monetized on YouTube, that I'm going to quote, make it rain on your channel. So including maybe buying some subscriptions or super chats or whatever, Venmo, whatever. So when that happens, you'll see that. But I'm trying to be like, hey, because mostly it'll be because of the fact that you've been coming on my show, and a lot of us Hal Spark types, are coming, and that a lot of those people who are my new subscribers are your supporters as well. So I appreciate you for doing all that, but I still need to get to 1,000 so I can monetize here. But I did. I
know it well. I did it right at the beginning of on all these sites. I had to, the standards were slightly different too at the time, but I had to do all these things, within a couple of months when COVID hit and everything shut down. And I had, my girl and I have a mortgage and we got to do all this stuff. And all of a sudden the whole, every means I had out there went away. And so, because of COVID, live performance especially, which is the one thing, luckily as a comedian, unlike actors who have to kind of wait for the phone to ring and hope and maybe wait tables and stuff, as a comedian, I can always tour.
Right.
I always had that as a backup. It always gave me more freedom than my strictly actor friends. And I was aware of that. I'm damn lucky that that's a skill I can use and I could do well with. But when it all goes away, all of a sudden, that's an even bigger hit, because the Titanic went down, but somebody also, punched a hole in your life raft.
Right.
So, right.
You couldn't get on the door.
Screwing holes in my door.
Yeah.
Right. That's right. And so, I had to go through this process where I had to monetize, and then of course I got YouTube struck by that dude, that lawyer at UMG, who's a Trump fan and didn't want me live streaming 90 days before the election. So he waited till 86 days, to the election. And then he hit me with a copyright strike, knowing that I would get kicked off. And so that's why I diversified. That's why I'm on multiple sites. That was why I will continue to be on multiple sites, because I don't trust that, the world is safe in those regards. And it's partly because we're you and I aren't on like a Rush Limbaugh channel, and we don't have, like Rush Limbaugh, the Heritage Foundation
Right.
paying salary.
Right.
Because I don't know how many people know this or not, but the Heritage Foundation basically paid for Rush Limbaugh's show to exist so that he could live off the advertising for a long while, and then they basically just kept it up. And then they did it with a bunch of, it's like the root money for the Blaze and all these things, they all come from these same people because it's PR for tax breaks.
Right.
This is basically their way of, making money. We'll lose money on the radio show, we'll lose money on all these things, but ultimately, in the end, we'll make money because we'll get people who are elected who will cut us a break.
Right.
Again, that's a real conspiracy. That materially happened, and there was an element of gamble to it. Doesn't mean it's going to work. You know what I mean? And in a lot of cases, it didn't.
Right.
But the upside was bigger than the downside for them, so the heck with it.
Now, the one question I did have is that when it comes to like when everybody supports you via either your Patreon or Venmo or YouTube subscriptions or super chats or subscriptions on Twitch or like the bits spent on Twitch, like which one benefits you the most? Like which one do you get more of the bucks that are spent? I think Venmo would probably be the best one, right? Unless Venmo's just like any of those other things. That's very direct. And Patreon would be the next one because it's really a minor fee that they put forward. Right.
But it's not directly connected to what you're doing, and it's basically a one-time thing. If Patreon had some sort of like super chat aspect of it, where you could sort of pick up, where people could subscribe, but also on top of those subscriptions, they could give you a tip or something like that, and there was an easy way to do it. It would make it, like mechanically better for people.
Well,
like
Patreon should do what Buy Me a Coffee did, because Buy Me a Coffee, you get an alert, you can get stream alerts, but Patreon, I don't think you can get stream alerts when anybody subscribes on Patreon. Nope. So they should implement that, and that would make Patreon a lot better. Personally, I love the Venmo, but I don't get a notification when I get Venmo'd. At least that's on the podcast.
Yeah, you can. It doesn't do it on the air, but you can. Like I get them on my Apple Watch.
Right.
So but that's what lets me know that they've happened when if I'm not carried away and doing a silly voice and not the tactic on my watch can't snap me out of being fecus for a minute to recognize it. But the direct will always be there, but it's also harder for everybody, and it's not as interactive too, for both them and everybody else. That said, there are different, versions of this that, that everybody kind of, I think it's better to have all of them open,
right,
for whoever whoever has that as their favorite, outlet. And again, there used to be this big movement where corral everyone, make everybody go to your site. If you're on, push everybody to Facebook.
Right.
If you want to grow something, push everybody to Instagram. If you want to go, whatever if Twitter's your thing, drive everybody to Twitter. And people just aren't going to leave. And it's social media, so why the hell should they? That POV about how to do it only really benefits the social media companies themselves. You know what I mean? Because they're the ones who are propagating. Like, get everybody from all your sites to come over here and they'll like our features. And they may or may not, but if they don't, you've spent all this time, corralling everybody into this. And what ultimately happens? Maybe 20% of the other sites will come over, but then everybody else won't. And you've got this kind of pittance everywhere else. And I just feel like at some point there's going to be a recognition of a cumulative crowd. Like, he's got all these people across all these venues, right, and these are real people. He didn't just get a bot farm of 3 million fake bot subscribers like Russell Brand or even early TYT. that builds this kind of illusion of support.
Right.
That a lot of them buy into, and I just don't buy. I would rather have a smaller crowd of real people and a real interaction and feel like I'm making a real impact than have just like, Kardashian like puff numbers.
Right.
That
I agree with that totally.
might be impressive to the dumber agents, managers, and producers out there. But if they're suckers for that, the rest of the cast of whatever you get cast in will be full of like fake bot things too. And then the movie or TV show you're in with them will be a flop because all their supporters are fake.
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
Because back to the supporting of you thing though. I did want to go because I was thinking about like I'm on the Hal's Angels level at YouTube, but I was thinking about dropping to the jalapeno level and going to the maybe throwing into the Patreon if that would be better for you.
It's yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean the Patreon. That's a thing that grows kind of on its own, and I have to remember to do it because it's kind of isolated from its own thing. But it has more of a live upside to it because people who are on Patreon become, can come to live shows and bring guests and all that kind of stuff. And I do little like meet and greets beforehand and that kind of stuff. And that's a really nice aspect that I don't know quite yet how to port over to like YouTube memberships and Twitch subscribers. I wish there was a way to do it. Like maybe just it would. That's when you realize why some of these people who run these kind of shows have a team of people at one point, and I'm just not there yet. It's just not financially logical for me to start hiring an assistant to work with in producing stuff. And there's going to be a point where I've got to bite into, what, my sort of managerial money that just, makes the show possible to get some growth.
Right.
I'm going to at some point have to do the, spend money to make money thing beyond technological stuff and content and services like the different, services that I use that I stream through, like Restream and others and the sites that I use that like Streamlabs and others that I use to make the experience better.
Right.
At some point, team-wise, I'm going to have to expand that out, as I continue to grow, because that's the point. But up until that point, it's going to be right up until it's going to be one of those like, oh, do I do it yet?
I had that thought with my Twitch
my
Twitch stream because I Twitch as Nerdy Dan, and I got to affiliate, and I have like a couple of the Prime subs, which is awesome, and other people who are not Prime subs, which is also cool too. But the Prime free sub thing is amazing. But where was I going with this? I have no freaking clue. I just lost my train of thought. Well, it's just getting those people aren't going to move anywhere else, right? And it's a long step before you can take it up a notch to the next level of it. And that's right. I was thinking about like whether or not I wanted to pull the trigger on getting like a paid layover thing for that, and I was like, no. And then I was like, let's build it up a little more before I get to that level. So you mean as far as like the on OBS or something? Well, like paying for like the higher level of Streamlabs or whatever it is, whatever nicer ones where it's not branded or whatever, because I use basic OBS right now, and just throw images on it. But no neat transitions. Yeah, well, no, I will say that there are before you're getting hyper personal ones, there are quite a few really cool looking, especially now, free versions of stuff that quality wise look pretty great. Right. That I would just jump at. Okay. Find one that color scheme that you like and can stand, that has transitions and all that kind of stuff. And there's going to be a free one everywhere. There just are. And so once then you could go, okay, I like the look of this. When I get my own made or when I up the level one thing, I know what the color scheme will be or what it won't be. That kind of stuff. So that's like, I'm a big believer
in constant incremental progress in these situations. So
Right.
you got to know that it doesn't matter to me if it's perfect. I can't exactly go around and make fun of, the perfect enemy, the good folks, if I'm not willing to make little tick-ups. And if you look at, over the last couple of years, especially, people know I have, incrementally improved on everything that I'm doing as best I can, and making new backgrounds in Photoshop on my own and putting that extra time in, and, the little tip cup and those kind of things. I will just, add those things as I can as I go along. And then, if I've ever overdone it, I can dial it back.
Right. Well, as I said, I think earlier on your show today, all good change comes incrementally. So.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, true holistic growth is incremental. I mean, like, who beats their kid for not walking the minute they come out of the womb? What kind of an idiot screams at their child, my kid needs to learn to read, so in 3rd grade I'm going to hold his feet to the fire.
Right.
Like, who talks like that? Right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's the same kind of right-wing crap you hear from people who are like, we need, these people on welfare don't work. We need to, forced work, make them do a government task, even though they're disabled, right? That kind of stuff. It's the same mentality. It's just from an allegedly different political perspective. It's the hard left and the hard right. There's a lot of horseshoe overlap. And the truth is, it's, for most of these people, it's a power trip. And it's not based on any kind of reality. None. And like I said, anything you're going to change that's going to last, you did it incrementally, and it became your culture. You made a cultural change in yourself as you made the material change, and that's what made it stick. Nobody has ever been on a diet that worked because they signed a piece of legislation that forced them to only eat so much.
Right. So
it's goofy.
Yeah, a couple quick things I want to do before if you want to leave at the hour, that's again, that's cool. Couple quick things.
My girlfriend has brought dinner, and she's sitting upstairs with dinner already. So, but yes,
couple quick things. So,
this out at the very least.
A couple weeks ago, I think you had said something that I was like I think you said you questioned why attempted murder is punished less than regular murder, and I've been saying that for years now. Like, why punish somebody?
Mm-hmm.
Why reward somebody for being a bad shot? So there's that. I wanted to say that it's a great argument because
it's one of the weirder things about that. It's just like so the idea is that if you murdered somebody, you might murder another somebody.
Right.
Okay. But if you tried to murder somebody, you might really try to murder somebody because you failed.
Right.
Like, I don't know where
there should be no
one
difference.
is sort of okay.
Right.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
Again, especially if it's a difference between, like, we don't think you were trying to kill somebody, but you almost killed somebody. Like, near manslaughter. That's arguably what I would call a DUI. A DUI is you might have killed somebody, dummy.
Right.
Reckless endangerment, right? Those kind of things. Contributing to the delinquency of a minor. You know what I mean? It's not the same. It's not quite the same thing as being a full-blown pedophile.
Right.
But
if you're trying to date a 14-year-old and you fail because they reject you, that doesn't mean you're any better of a person than if you succeeded.
That's right. If you try to get a kid drunk, I'm going to assume that wasn't where it was going to stop.
Right, exactly. So other two things. YouTube will show lots of things like that are related to things of your interest, and sometimes it fails. But I saw where years back, I guess you had done some performance on a TV show with Dennis DeYoung and got to sing some stick songs with him. That was just pretty awesome. I was totally jealous of that. And I did get to see.
We sang "Lady" and "Come Sail Away," and on "Come Sail Away" I sang the High Line.
Yeah, I was impressed with that.
There you go.
Maybe one of these days I could come out and do a song with you with Nerd Halen.
I'm for it.
Cool. The other thing is, like, I saw the comedy where you did the kind of stream of consciousness thing with the comedy that was aired a few weeks back. I got to see that, and
my Flapper show.
I also found out that I recently also found out that I was like 10% Scottish. So since I just started doing that, I also started doing a Scottish accent because now it's not appropriate. And but
yeah, you could totally do it if you find out that you've got that much in it. You can use whatever accent where you find out you're from. So if you find out that I've got both German and French too because of the Celtic line.
Right.
And so if at some point if I just want to be a complete smelly pig, I can. If I want to be a nasty frog, I'm going to be that. And you just have to deal with it because I wouldn't be alive if there wasn't someone in my background that went, "Hey, we want to go upstairs." So
nice. But yeah, then like earlier in the show you were talking about the advancements in technology when it comes to like sex toys and robotics or whatever. I was so waiting at the end of the show for you to go like, "They can take our lands, but they'll never take our sex robots."
Right, our sex dolls.
Yeah.
I try not to mix themes too much. Because it can be non sequitur-ish.
Right.
But I will say that there will be, get used to the idea, and this will be very upsetting to the Mike Pillows of the world. It will be a person at some point, and then many people, that are born from the copulation between a human being and a sex doll, a sex robot of some sort, meaning that instead of having a human surrogate, there will be robot surrogacy.
Huh.
And because of that possibility, there will also be men at some point who decide that either gay men or men who don't want to have be married or whatever, decide I want a child, and they will have a child via artificial insemination, or actual insemination of an egg that they have bought, just like women get sperm from a clinic.
Right.
And it will be done entirely inside through at least experientially what will be like the old-fashioned way. Because of all sorts of reasons in that we don't quite understand in human pheromonal connection to our offspring and all kinds of other stuff that will be a lot better than just going to a clinic and putting it in a cup and, coming back 9 months later to pick up your kid.
Right.
That's going to happen. It might be the way they do it on deep space endeavors to keep sanity and jealousy from wrecking the mission.
Right.
So it's going to happen. Get used to the idea.
Technology is a wonderful thing.
It is a wonderful thing. I'm a fan, and not just because I'm named after a computer. But
nice.
We have not. People don't even know how weird this world is going to get. Human beings are we have a lot of emotional, mental, and physical options we can be okay with that other animals can't or won't. And that's going to extend into our experience in a whole lot of very strange ways over the course of the next millennia. Understand this. We are closer to hominid walking robots, anthropomorphic robot experiences with AI linkages. We are closer to those walking amongst us than we are in the time scale to the introduction of the cell phone. I would even say the smartphone. We are less than 20 years away from this in a huge way. I mean, you having a robot friend, we're that close. And the fact that people are acting right now like they know how stuff is gonna work is just hilarious to me.
Right.
Like, wait till people start figuring out, like, when you start walking around with Apple glasses on, and the first time you meet somebody and you talk to them that you've only met online, and you look at them as their avatar in your Apple glasses until such time as they're okay with you seeing what they really look like. Like those stories, like the amount of like catfishing stories about augmented reality is going to be hilarious.
And you could you could build like cyborg kids and keep them in your basement, right? Like lab rats.
Of course. Yes, right. That's exactly right. Although those kids have real personalities and stuff, and we won't be there yet.
True.
Russell Brand did stuff about that, like Google engineer who thought that their AI was sentient and all this stuff. It isn't.
Right.
You're welcome.
Anyway, so thank you so much for calling it again. Do you want to do it again in 2 weeks, or do you want to wait till next month?
Yeah.
2 weeks?
Well, yeah, no, we can do it again. Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll try and arrange this on our regular kind of Wednesday arc. That's totally cool. And again, even if just to apologize for the one time I blitzed because I literally fell asleep waiting to call you because of the crazy 48 hours I had where I'm like, okay, I'm standing up would be a mistake right now because I might end up cadavering myself into a cabinet. So
the first thing I said on my podcast when I was like, okay, maybe Hal's not showing up, is he probably fell asleep because he was super busy today. So I was right. So there you go.
Yes, you were right on the money. So apologies all around, and I'm glad I could make it. It was a good conversation, and I appreciate your conspiratorial lunatic caller earlier, who I'm certain thinks he's speaking reasonably.
Right.
And I assure you, and him, if he's still listening, that he is not. He has drank a shit ton of Kool-Aid that instead of one big gulp, he's had it dribbled into his cranium over the course of a couple of decades. And I'm here to tell him it's completely forgivable that he got lulled into this lunacy, but that is precisely what it is.
Yep.
I'm sorry to tell everybody that life is extraordinarily normal.
Yes.
That a lot of the problems we have are natural, social, and fixable. It like there is no Pentaveret or Illuminati. If there was, I would know because I'm a Freemason. It doesn't exist. You like there are a lot of people trying to do a lot of good, and there's a few people trying to do some bad, but they're not working together. Most of the time, they're trying to strangle each other because they think the world is Darwinistic and a zero-sum game.
Right.
So you have nothing to fear, even fear itself.
Cool. Well,
they're into the lesson. Cool.
Go enjoy your dinner. I don't want to keep you from your better half too much, and I will talk to you in 2 weeks. Anything else you want to
take care?
Anything else you want to plug before you leave?
No, just hi, sparklers. Yeah, and hopefully, at some point, Liberal Dan, where are you located?
New Orleans.
New Orleans. Okay, yes. So eventually, we'll get down to New Orleans with that. The first thing that I'll do in New Orleans probably will be a Nerd Halen gig. So I will let you know when we're headed your direction.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Peace.
Have a good one.
Cheers.
Have a good one.
Okay, bye.
Bye. All right, again, that was Hal Sparks, infotainmentwars.com. I'm sure most of you know that already, but again, appreciate him having him on the show. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back afterwards, and we'll do Words of Redneck Wisdom and some other clips that I got from past couple days where I pissed off some conservatives. I can take your calls as well. If you're a sparkler, keep on. I'll try and show you what else that I do to make this show good. Anyway, be back in a few minutes. This is Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left. That's right.
Are you planning a trip to Disney soon? Do you want help avoiding spending mistakes and making the most of your vacation? Then check out budgeteers.com, a new site devoted to helping you get the most mouse for your money. What kinds of tickets should you get? Is the dining plan a good deal for you? Should you stay on grounds or not? Should you buy park hoppers? Many other sites are filled with information about what other people like to do. but Budgeteers is geared to help you make the best decision for you. So check out Budgeteers.com or go to YouTube.com/Budgeteers and help make your trip the best it can be. Budgeteers.com is not a travel agency, and it is not affiliated with the Disney Corporation or any of its holdings. In a world gone mad, one progressive will do a bad movie trailer guy impression to get you to listen to his show. There's only one thing that I like better than the Liberal Dan Radio Minicast. Alright, Bill, that's enough of that. On the Liberal Dan Radio Minicast, you will hear an honest discussion of the day's issues, with some personal bits in between. You might even hear what the other side has to say, sometimes even in their own voices. So become one of the Liberal Dan family, because family means no one gets left behind or forgotten. To hear those bad impressions and more, tune into the Liberal Dan Radio Minicast. Talk from the left, that's right. And I think to myself, what a wonderful show. Yeah. If you enjoy Liberal Dan Radio, there's many ways that you can support the show. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can like me on Facebook or follow me on Twitter or TikTok. And you can become a Liberal Dan Patreon. For as little as $3 a month, you can get a shout out. Higher levels get the opportunity to vote on what I do next on the podcast, the Minicast, or on YouTube. You can even buy commercial advertising or sponsor bits. So go to patreon.liberaldan.com and support the show today.
Hey there, podcast listeners. This is Deminox, host of The World According to Knox. It's time for Season 2, where I take you on another trip through my world. The world of movies, video games, pop culture, and more. Relate them to the world around you. Don't forget to leave a question for Marscat, and find me on Twitter by the handle XDeminox. That's letter X like X-Men, DEMINOX. Now enjoy the rest of your podcast.
And we're back with more Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right. Again, just do what we said. You support the show. Subscribe to the channel is the best thing you could do. Support the Patreon, patreon.com/LiberalDan or patreon.liberaldan.com. You could shoot me a Venmo. You can buy me a coffee, buymeacoffee.com/LiberalDanRadio, or go to liberaldan.com and click the Buy Me a Cider button. Shouts out to all the people who have contributed stuff today. I'm also going to be... I'm going to be sharing some. I'm trying to, get the Amazon affiliate stuff going as well, because that's another way to do revenue stream or whatever. I have links to like whatchamacallit, to the microphone that I use, the camera I use. So I'm trying to think of a way to get some other stuff in there that could be useful to people or whatever, to try and get those sales going. So I need to figure that out. But it's almost like if you're interested in buying something, I guess you could shoot me an email. If you're going to get something off of Amazon, shoot me an email, liberaldanradio@gmail.com, and I can send you that product as an affiliate link. And then when you buy that product, you'll be able to, help the show as well. So that might be a little bit too much of a stretch for asking people to do. But if you want to do it, I'll be more than happy to do it for you. So, we're trying to do that. I'm also going to be posting maybe a wish list or whatever on Amazon, because I'm putting together some stuff for my new puppy that's coming in. And if you want to help with that as well, that would be also nice and sweet or whatever. But I mean, you don't have to. Again, not everybody can financially support the show, but subscribing and sharing the channel is the two best things you can do at this point. And again, if once I get to 1,000, I'll likely be able to monetize, and with that, I'll then be able to, I'll go ahead and I'm going to make it rain on Hal's channel. So, yeah, Debbie, like any product, like if you email, like, let's say you wanted to buy a book on Amazon and be like, hey, I want to buy this book, send me the link to the book. I'll respond to you with a link to the book with my affiliate link attached, and then you can go ahead and buy that. And I think anything else you buy at that point will also be credited to me or whatever. I don't know. Or I might just be able to do like buy through my liberaldan.com and do it just hey, click through my affiliate link on liberaldan.com for Amazon, and then you'll get tagged with my code, and anything you buy at that point will work as well. I'm not sure if that works as well, but we'll see. So So explore the topic of dogs versus gun application. Yeah, I do need to do that. I do need to look into that further because we discussed that a little bit last week. I do want to go reach out to my family friend's boyfriend, one of the friends of our family who we're friends with. One of the people in the family is dating somebody who works at a gun store, and I would love to be able to compare what it would take for me to apply for and get any sort of gun, be a handgun or a rifle or whatever, and compare that to the difficulty I had trying to adopt a pet via one particular way. And also to see if spending money makes it quicker. Like, for example, the dog that I am getting, Blanche, right there. She, I'm spending more money than I would have had to at a shelter to get her, but I'm also dealing with less hassle and stress because of that. Yeah, Doc, I think I did know that, but we'll see. I'll see about getting the link up there. I might put it on. But if you go to if you want to buy anything off of Amazon, go to this podcast video or any of the podcast videos. Click on the link to the either the camera or the microphone that I use, and then that will probably trigger anything else you buy. I'll get credit for as well. So there's that opportunity too. So you don't even have to email me. You could just click the link on this video or any other video where I've plugged Amazon. Anyway, let's go ahead, and there's a bunch of stuff to talk about. There's this thing going on in New Orleans. And I say New Orleans because it's supposedly a Louisiana thing, but the conservative station that I listen to is kind of pushing it. And their commercial says, like, big cities like New Orleans can counter legitimate votes in other areas of the state, kind of implying that votes from New Orleans are not legitimate because, they're liberal or blue or whatever, and as such, they don't count as much or shouldn't according to the conservatives. And what they're trying to do is they're saying that New Orleans has, if you take the adult population of New Orleans, like everybody who's 18 or above, and then you look at the number of registered voters in the city of New Orleans, that figure is about 85 to 90%. They say 90. My math says 85%. And apparently the average nationwide is like 67%. So New Orleans is maybe 18 to 23% higher than the average, which is averages you can have higher or lower. But also, if you look at our parish next door, Jefferson Parish is like 81%, so it's also rather high, but they're only picking on New Orleans. So, and one of the things I asked as a question was, is this on that? I don't know if this one's on that one or not, but one of the things that I asked as a question is some of these audio clips that I'm going to play, including Words of Redneck Wisdom, are dealing with that, and some of them might not. But just so you know, I oppose these people were in another parish just kind of doing a test of this, in Ascension Parish, and one of the things that they complained about was that 6 voters listed as their address that they're living at as a UPS store. So, for example, they put like a P.O. box at the UPS store as their address, or however the UPS store does it. And so they question, like, that can't be legitimate in their minds because they can't imagine why somebody who is a legitimate voter would be using a UPS store. And I immediately thought of 2 things that those people could be doing. One of them being, let's say you're a traveling nurse or some other form of traveling worker, but nurse seems to fit the bill. And let's say you plan on traveling over the course of a year, and you're not gonna stay in New Orleans or whatever parish they were in. So does it make sense to pay rent over that year if you're not gonna be living here? No. It probably makes more sense to take some of your belongings, throw it into storage, and then take what you need to go do your traveling nursing for a year and then come back. But you still want to retain, you still want to be able to get your mail, right? So you set yourself up as at the UPS store. But the other option that I thought of was the fact that, what if somebody's homeless? If I was homeless and I wanted to maintain a mailing address, I would you maybe use a PO box at a UPS store or something, and I would use the UPS store maybe to get my mail, and maybe I would put my registration there. I mean, maybe I would put my registration at a friend's house or another family member's house. I don't know, but I said it's just another possibility that they don't want to think about. So I basically said, do these people believe that? And I put this poll up on Twitter. Not that many people responded to it. I think Jolie did. Shouts out to Jolie for doing that. But basically said, should homeless people get to vote or be able to cast a ballot? Yes or no? And I caused some fighting amongst the conservatives. But we're going to play the words of Redneck Wisdom first, and then we're going to play some of the other clips as well. Which may or may not be on the homeless topic, because I think some of them are, but some of them aren't. So let's play Words of Redneck Wisdom first, and then we'll go on from there.
And now, Words of Redneck Wisdom, brought to you by Liberal Dan Radio.
These liberals that call your program. I really hope that the listeners don't really put too much stock in what these lunatics say. You know, a person that comes on your program and talks about something doesn't pass the smell test. That's like taking a drunken bum out of the gutter and asking them, do you smell the alcohol and the vomit that you're living in? They can't smell it. You understand? Because that's what they are. That's what they live in. Talk about a smell test. Now this guy says, "Oh, people." Pearson is calling this the airwaves and telling you there's a concern that Donald Trump is selling secret classified information to the Russians. Your president of the United States, probably the best one we've ever had in my lifetime, is going to sell secrets to the Russians. Okay, no one mentions that it is well known that Hillary and Bill Clinton left the White House broke. She runs a private server with classified information on it that she's not the president. She can't classify and declassify. See, Donald Trump could. But she ran a private server with highly classified information, and this bum that calls your program doesn't want to talk about that, huh? Maybe she was selling secrets to the Russians. It's absurd that people would call your program and make name comments like this and expect to be taken seriously. Yeah, lastly, on these so-called papers. Mm-hmm. Look, they're going to try to prosecute him under the Espionage Act. It's an age-old saying, Jeff. You can wake up every day and break a law and not know you've done it. Mm-hmm. There are so many laws on the books that they have passed, and this really what it amounts to is they have passed so many laws that they can prosecute you for and make you out to be a criminal. And I submit they've done this so they can pick and choose anyone they want to arrest, to convict, and to put away.
Right.
This isn't just about Donald Trump. Look, Steve Bannon, Roger Stone, Peter Navarro. This is not about a liberal ideology or a democratic principle. This is totalitarianism, and they're using the official branches of the government to take out their enemies. This is not American democracy. This is something completely dangerous.
And this concludes Words of Redneck Wisdom, brought to you by Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right.
And there you go. Yes, I was talking a little bit. What didn't pass the smell test was the thing about the whole trying to, only weed out the supposedly suspicious voter registrations in the city of New Orleans. That didn't pass the smell test to me, especially because, I kind of view it as the boy who cried wolf, in that, they lie. Unfortunately, when conservatives hear the story, many conservatives hear the story of the boy who cried wolf, the moral of that story that they get is not, don't lie because people will stop believing you. It's well, maybe I should continue to listening to this person who is lying because of the fact that they might tell the truth the next time, which is why they continue to talk about that. And Eggoff Twitler stole a little bit of my thunder there in the chat, in that I agree that there are too many laws. I said that to the other caller who called in earlier in the show. there are too many laws. We should reduce the amount of laws that we have. I'm fine with that. Now, not randomly. There are laws that are good and that need to be there, and laws that are bad that don't need to be there. But the biggest difference, one of the biggest differences, I should say, between what happened with Hillary Clinton and what happened with Donald Trump, one of them is the fact that Hillary Clinton's information was on a server that was secure, as opposed to in boxes at Mar-a-Lago. Two different things. But when Hillary Clinton, even if she did mishandle the information, when she did it, it would have only been a misdemeanor and maybe as such not worth the time of the FBI to go into all that, especially if there's no evidence of any harm with the server. Donald Trump, on the other hand, he's the one that made it a felony with 5 years punishment for, I guess, each count of mishandling of classified information. And I'm assuming if you were somebody who was a prosecutor and trying to nail somebody to the wall, that each document that you mishandled would be an additional count. So you could lock somebody up for life for mishandling multiple documents, especially if those documents turn up to be, have been shared with other people who should not have been shared to. So there's that. So that's my words of redneck wisdom. I hadn't made one of those in a while, and when I heard this guy calling, I was like, I gotta use this guy because it's amazing. So let's see. We got Matthew and Metairie, a guy that calls into the show regularly. Let's play his first.
Yesterday, Dan gave away the game, and I'd like to thank him for that. He mentioned election deniers, and it's like, why did he bring that up? It suddenly occurred to me. He has been under the impression that there's actually a majority of support for his ideas, and
as there is,
if we prove that the 2020 election was stolen, I think the proof is there.
It's not.
It means that, well, no, his ideas are not in the majority. People really aren't with him on the majority of his opinions.
They are.
And that, in fact...
Okay, I guess that's the end of it. I kind of ended that one kind of weirdly. But yeah, again, I brought up election deniers because to me, the people who are behind the removing of the registered voters who they feel are not legitimate in the city of New Orleans, to me, those are probably the same people who are election deniers. And also, I also talked about the threat. Another thing that I was talking about was the threat of the GOP, because there was another guest that this person regularly has on, a guy called Chad Rogers. If you want to look at his website, it's thedeadpelican.com. It's like, what's the name of that other site that's a larger site that I forget? It's not Breitbart. It's one of the other kind of conservative sites that kind of just lists articles like all over the place in a very messed up way. I forget. I'll remember it like 5 minutes after the show ends. Anyway, he was saying, why are all these liberals, talking about the threat of the GOP, the threat of MAGA, when they control the federal government? And I was like, well, yeah, we may have a slim majority in the House because we have two independents that caucus with us and the vice president, and we might have a slim majority in the House. But when we're talking about the threat of MAGA folks, we're not just talking about that. We're talking about the threat at the state level. We're talking about the threats of insurrection. And we're talking about the threats of trying to kick people off the voter rolls to give liberals even more of a weakened say than they already have in the electoral process, especially in red states that are trying to diminish the say of Democrats therein. So, yeah, that's why I brought up the people who are election deniers, because the election deniers to me are the people that are causing these problems. They think that there was this big fraud, or they'll say that there's a big fraud, because I'm pretty certain that a large chunk of the people at the higher up stage know that there wasn't a fraud. They just know that they can lie about it, and enough of Donald Trump's poorly educated will be like, that's right, there was a fraud, it had to be. No one's going to vote for Joe Biden when he campaigns from the bunker. Anyway, so I brought up my point to Jeff with all this, with my problems with the not passing the smell test, and I brought it up with also the issue with the fact that, you know, these people can't consider the fact that maybe homeless people should still be able to vote, and they should be listing as an address a legitimate place like a UPS store, because if they put their address as their old address and people try and look and they're not there, well, they're going to get kicked off the rolls. So this is where the infighting took place, and this was amazing.
Good morning.
Hey, Jeff. You know, I agree with you 99% of the time, but I have to say, the liberal Dan got you to admit homeless people should vote. I don't know where you're coming from, but that's a Democratic strategy. For one thing, municipalities have no idea how many homeless people there are in the country. So we're gonna start letting them vote. Liberal Dan backed you into saying that should, and this is not about you.
I said to him, I don't think homeless people are worried about voting. I mean, they're worried about, you know, where they're going to get their next meal. I mean, most of them really have mental illness that they're dealing with.
And you did say they should have the right to vote. Well, if they're not homeless anymore, Liberal Dan, you're a phony, dude. Why don't you take some homeless people in and rehabilitate them? You're such a good liberal. Why don't you take them in, feed them?
All right, let me ask you this, Bernard. Let's say a person living in a house in New Orleans can't keep up with this Biden administration, is forced out of their house, can't pay the rent anymore, has to go out on the street. But that person has been voting for years. So just because that person has been forced out on the street, even though that person has been voting for years, because he can't keep up with the expenses in a Biden economy, can't keep up with all the inflation, has to go out on the street because it's that bad. And there are a lot of Americans that are doing that because they can't pay the bills and people are living paycheck to paycheck. Should that person lose his right to vote?
Yes. You're taking the liberal point of view once again. Somebody has to pull themselves up.
The person should lose their right to vote because they can't pay the bills?
Yes, they should, Jeff. You're taking the liberal point of view, my man.
The liberal point of view? No, I'm pointing out that people are losing their homestead because of the Biden economy. Let me get Michelle in on this.
They lose it because they go crazy.
Okay.
All right. Just let me finish.
I will come back to you. I'm going to come back to you. I want to get Michelle in, and then I'll come back to you. Go ahead, Michelle.
Yeah, you know, and I get what you're saying, Bernard, but it's also called a human rights issue. You know, they're not criminals. I mean, some of them are, but you're talking about, so you're basically going to say then our veterans that happen to be homeless, you should take away their right to vote when they actually fought for this country?
Yeah,
that would be horrible.
Taking away their right
Hell
to
no.
vote.
We should never take their right to vote away.
I'm sorry?
We should never take the right of our veterans, the right to vote away. They sacrificed everything for our country.
Election where they don't have a domicile, they should not be able to vote. It's too easy to cheat now, Jeff. Mm-hmm. And this is just another ploy for them to find another way that they can cheat. All this, I feel so sorry. Liberal Dan, take a homeless person in, you hypocrite.
Well,
This week's Hypocrite of the Week is Liberal Dan for not bringing in homeless people into his house but thinking they should be able to vote. Yeah. I mean, this dude's saying the quiet part out loud, but it's great that, you know, they were infighting, that they were in, like, oh, you're a liberal, Jeff, you're taking the liberal point of view because you think that homeless people should be able to vote and that you should have to have a domicile to be able to cast a ballot. Fortunately, the law doesn't agree with him in theory, but even though I'm sure there are people who are homeless who do get kicked off the voting rolls because of that. But let's see, what did he call me? I'm a hypocrite. I'm a hypocrite. I'm a phony too. I was also a phony because I don't have homeless people living with me. I'm also amused that the guy that was talking there was Jeff, and he's the guy that whose show it is, and I was amused at the fact that he spun it to the whole, oh, well, this is because of the Biden economy that people are getting homeless, and people who are homeless because of the Biden economy shouldn't be able to shouldn't lose their ability to vote, especially if they're veterans. And this dude went all in and like, if they're veterans and they don't have a place to live, they shouldn't be able to vote. And I'm like, but this isn't just this person's idea. I've heard the idea, there are people who still think that you should own land, have to be a landowner, not just a renter, but a landowner to be able to cast a ballot. There are some people who think that the more acreage you own should give you more say in elections, like some sort of sick, twisted form of a meritocracy that only judges you by merit based off of how much property you can afford, that sort of thing. Like, these people are out there, and it's scary. And I mean, and this Jeff, look, I've known Jeff for a very long time. I've known him since before 2004. As I ran for Congress in 2004, and even though he is a Republican, he was very helpful. He was one of the few people that actually helped me when I ran for Congress. So that's why, even though we kind of butt heads on a lot of things, that I'm not necessarily as apt to toss him aside, even though he is very MAGA. I mean, he is very, very conservative, but sometimes he'll make sense, like believing that somebody who's homeless should still be able to cast a ballot. But then there's plenty of other ones who will say, no, you shouldn't be able to do that. Aaron's like, well, F me then, I'll never own property. Well, the first has nothing to do with the second, right? But let's see, there's more on the homelessness thing here.
Bernard accused you of having the liberal position on, whether the homeless can be registered to vote. And yes, you do have the liberal position on that. But I'd love to know what Bernard's idea is. Is a conservative position, BlackRock sends you to a camp where you get re-educated and you get your vote back? I hesitate to think about that.
So, but there is another, I think that's the same, he called in, I think that time as Matthew from Homa, but I think Matthew from Homa, Matthew from Metairie are the same thing, same person. So, yeah, I mean, even he is like, I shudder to think what Bernard's version of the conservative idea that you shouldn't be able to cast a ballot. So I'm glad that I've started a fire and started some infighting amongst the people who are callers to that show, because holy crap, it's exposing some of them for who they really are. And the more they fight amongst each other, the less time they have to, disenfranchise other people. Jeff, you can't have that puppy because that's my puppy. That's my puppy that I'm getting. I'm getting my puppy in just about a month now, in a month and 2 days. It's getting close. I think there was one more. Where was it? Oh, there was the voter registration thing. Now, this guy, I said that maybe I won't pick on him as much, simply because of the fact that he has some issues. But, I mean, I love this clip of his.
We don't care about evidence.
We don't care about evidence. Clearly, that's true. And there's another, but he called in again with this as well. This is my last clip of that show that we'll be playing, because, we do care about evidence, even if they don't.
We don't care about evidence.
So here we go. Here's Cash Money, the name he calls in under.
All right. Comment to the Dan.
Yes.
His attitude. He's always trying to quote stats and beat up the system. We're talking about elections. We all know there's more than 100,000 non-voters on the rolls throughout the country. It's not just down there in New Orleans. Let's shut down the country mid-October and for a week and re-register every single legal American voter in America. Re-register. Don't tell me we can't. We can do anything we want. We don't need time. And your regular patron, your caller, who calls in all Mondays, I'm blanking.
Chad Rogers, our ringside all-star Chad.
He rubs me wrong. I feel like he's trying to slightly beat up on Trump, to say that he didn't have enough stamina to defend against all the options that are out there. And he shouldn't have. The documents are evidence against the treasonous pigs. He took evidence. He's allowed to have that evidence. He knew exactly what he was keeping, and he needs that for his future cases against the FBI, against the Clintons, against people. We need to re-register every voter. We need to hear what we actually think. We need our intentions to deliver, and we don't need time to continually happening. 20 months in, we're gonna withstand this for 28 more months. No. This needs to end today. This needs to end this year. We need to do something as a people immediately, as one, together. I don't care how, but we know our attitudes. Everybody in the country's on the same page. All 3,000 plus counties plus parishes, they'd shut the country down for a week to re-register every voter in America. Don't tell me we can't. We already know there's so many cheats on the board. Something has to be done now. And Jesse, I appreciate your passion, son. You keep preaching to us. That's all I got, Jeff.
Yeah, everybody's on board with that. If everybody was on board with it, they'd do it. But most people aren't on board with that because that's a ridiculous idea to force everybody to re-register. Yeah, that's not going to work. But, this is the same guy that wants to seize Facebook when you lock up Zuckerberg for treason, and he thinks Zuckerberg should be shot or something because that's what he believes, and that's not what I believe. Anybody on YouTube who thinks I'm exposing violence, I'm just saying what other people want. I don't have the big satire thing that Hal has. But, yeah. I'm always trying to quote stats. That maybe gave me a good chuckle. Yes, how dare I look at numbers and figures and try and use logic and reason to try and determine what I'm talking about. No, I care about the evidence, apparently. I'm just frankly surprised that he didn't use don't tell me we can't do it. We're Americans, not Americans. Surprised he didn't give that line, although I've used that line before sometimes against conservatives when conservatives are like, we can't do that. Yes, we can. We're Americans, not Americans. So it's hysterical. Anyway, let me go ahead. I do want to reshare the GoFundMe link. Again, this GoFundMe link, a friend of mine, their child is getting abused from the domiciliary parent. Ignore the fact I'm trying to avoid the genders of everybody because I want it to be less obvious as to who it is, just in case if anybody's listening. They think they went ahead and took a loan out to get the legal process started, but they don't have the money to pay off that loan. They're just desperate to be able to protect their child from the abusive parent who is the current domiciliary parent, even though they share custody. So that's why I'm kind of pushing this. But more, I think, above and beyond, I think I want to push this, at least in the short term, more than the other stuff. Like, yeah, I'd love anybody who's a patron. I love anybody who buys me ciders and who Venmos me and everything. And it's awesome, and I appreciate it muchly. But I also, if you can't donate $5, I understand. If you can donate $5 or more, great, please. But if you can or you can't, just share the link. Make sure that other people see it because other people might want to help too. And enough $5 contributions might get us to where we need to go. I'm about 1/9 of the way at the estimated cost at this point, including the fees that you have to pay from GoFundMe. So, let's see. Alarasia, I have 2 sister baby kittens. Couldn't decide which one, so I got both. Let me tell you about that, Alarasia. Let me tell you about baby kittens. Last year, my 9-year-old, or my 8-year-old at the time, he was like, I don't think I could live if I don't have a cat, because he loved the cats. He loved S'mores that we had when S'mores passed away. And Vester also passed away. I don't think he was as keen on Vester as he was on S'mores, but he really wanted to have a cat, and we kept showing them, pictures of baby kittens. And a friend of mine fosters from, birth till they can be adopted out, and she does a great job with it. And that's where we ended up getting those kittens from. And it was much easier to adopt the kittens than it was to try and adopt a dog, as I talked about last week. But yeah, so we were like, okay, well, we're going to get a cat. And we're like, okay, well, let's go ahead and get 2 cats from the same sort of being raised together, because if we get 2 cats, then they'll be able to play with each other, especially if like we're not home, and then the cats can play with each other and they won't have to, be alone in the house, and they'll have friends. Cool, right? Fine. So we go ahead and I pick the one that I want. Henry, my youngest son, picks the one that he wants. And then, so we're sitting there and we're getting ready to get the 2. We're waiting. And then at the last minute, my wife is like looking at this third cat, Agnes. And she was like, she's so precious. I need her. And I was like, okay. So I went ahead and caved, and we went ahead, because we couldn't decide on whether or not, which cats we should have. We should just went ahead and got 3. So we have 3 cats right now. Oh, Patty. Remember you said you would sing happy birthday to me tonight. I don't know why I'm stretching my things. Let me take a sip of water. Should I do it like Marilyn, or just let's see. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Patty. Happy birthday to you. Oh, you said yes, Marilyn. Now, as I stop singing, I should be like, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Patty Whack. Happy birthday to you. There you go. So 2 versions of happy birthday for Patty. So yeah, so there you go. See, I'm an interactive host. I won't necessarily do a dance for you if you say so, but yeah. Wes Webb, I'm a vocal coach, but I think maybe you're beyond training. It's possible. I don't know. Some people think I'm a good singer. Some people think I don't. I don't know. People are free to have their opinions.
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. Let's go ahead and take the final commercial break, and we'll come back. Take any calls if you want to call in. Otherwise, wait, where's the freaking... I need to do a better job of putting this audio better. And I did say I would also play the Chopper City one, just because we're talking about Sturgis earlier on. So I might go ahead and do that once we get there. But I'm just not having a good time seeing. There it is. So anyway, we'll be back. 914-803-4131. That is 914-803-4131. This is Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left. That's right.
Greetings. This is Nimbus Yosh, host of the Percy Podcast. What is the Percy Podcast? Well, it's pretty much the smoothest talking host you'll ever hear in your life, talking about all kinds of things. Political things, nerdy things, fun things, not so fun things. Go ahead, give a listen, and follow at the Percy Podcast for more updates and information. Why not sit back and take a listen to one of the best podcasts you'll ever hear, and no one else will. Catch you on the tunes.
Do you want to set money aside for a rainy day? Do you want to open an account that will give you a savings bonus each month? What if I told you that you can get both and have a chance to win $10 million? YADA is an FDIC-insured bank, and when you go to yada.liberaldan.com, open an account, and make your first deposit, you will get 100 entries into the next weekly drawing. You will also get entries each week you have a balance. So go to yada.liberaldan.com. That's YOTTA.liberaldan.com. One of the biggest advantages that conservatives have is their media presence. Conservatives have a wealth of radio talk shows, podcasts, and YouTube channels that allow them to effectively spread their message. We should have the same on the left as well. This is why I want you to go to growleft.liberaldan.com. We are at a turning point in the history of this country. There is no reason why the ultra-conservatives and MAGA types should be as successful as they have been. Extremist conservative ideas are unpopular, while left-wing ideas like Medicare for all, abortion rights, and marriage equality are at all-time highs. But they have the messaging, and we need to build up our radio shows, podcasts, and YouTube channels to fight back against their extremist conservative messages. Liberal Dan Radio has partnered with Levelfield to help us use tools that are typically only available to big money donors. When you give a contribution at growleft.liberaldan.com, you will be doing two things. That money will be spent advertising causes on the left, like body autonomy, marriage equality, voting rights, and in support of or opposition of candidates. And that commercial airtime will be spent on smaller shows, podcasts, and YouTube channels to help them grow larger and be more successful. We get to kill two birds with one stone, but I can't do it alone. I need your help. So please go to growleft.liberaldan.com and make your contribution today. That's growleft.liberaldan.com. growleft.liberaldan.com. Political advertising paid for by Levelfield. Contributions are not tax deductible as charitable contributions.
Welcome back to Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming to you from New Orleans, Louisiana. And to join the conversation, it's 914-803-4131. It's 914-803-4131. If you are in the waiting room and you are waiting to get on the air with me, please go over to the YouTube channel and put your, let me see who is calling. Let me know your area code. Say, this is my area code, I'm calling in. Because we want to avoid any of the trolling that took place last show that I allowed people to come on not realizing who they were and what they were be. Now, I was very brave, I think, bringing the last person on who was calling into the show because I didn't think it was Hal, but I was doing it anyway. And well, oh, it's US. Okay, we'll let you on then. I was having that I was just looking at the screen, having the mouse button over the mute thing. I was like, if I hear one word that starts with the letter N, I'm just gonna mute it regardless of what it is, because I'm not risking that again. So I was not taking a risk, and I was not gonna risk it for a biscuit, as I say. Before I get you, Wes, I do want to also share the link to the Liberal Dan page of Support These Creators. That's the page you can go to support people like Andrea, like Ken, TV2, Trucker John, Damonox, Nimbus Yosh, the host of the smooth sounds of the Percy podcast. And Hal's links are there as well, and it also has links that you can support me too. So go ahead to that page and go ahead and subscribe to all those channels. I think I also linked to Benny Loco. And if you have anybody else that you think should be on there, like left-leaning creators who should be supported, let me know. Send me an email, liberaldanradio@gmail.com. Send me the information, and I'll both put them up on the page and I'll give them a little plug in the show, because with my Grow Left strategy, again, it's not just about raising money, it's about helping each other grow. And I want to be able to do that with whatever. And Hal seemed to agree with that idea. We need to build up the farm team. So let's build up the farm team. Anyway, Wes says he's on the phone. So let's bring Wes on. What's going on, Wes?
Not a whole lot. How you doing, Dan?
I'm doing all right. So how about you sing Happy Birthday to Patty and see who's better?
Okay. Estas son las mañanitas que cantaba el rey David A las muchachas bonitas se las cantamos así. Despierta, mi bien, despierta, mira que amaneció, ya los pajaritos cantan, la luna ya se metió. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, dear Patty Whack, happy birthday to you.
Wow, I was not impressing.
I think there's a latency.
I was not impressing.
I bet you can't hear.
I mean, they're finally getting it in the chat. I was not expecting you to have pipes. So there you go. I'm impressed. I am very impressed.
Buddy, I'm a professional.
Bellissimo.
Yep. I don't think we can do a singing lesson because there's too much of a latency.
Maybe. I mean, well, you can hear me. You can hear me directly. Since you're on the phone, we can hear each other directly. It's just the people on the chat will hear both of us delayed. So that's the issue.
Oh. Okay, with the latency, let's try this. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. Okay.
Wait, that was all right. That was better than you saying "Happy Birthday."
Okay.
I apologize. You're better than I thought. You were awfully pitchy when you were singing "Happy Birthday."
Well, and
Maybe you're just trying to be funny.
I mean, yeah, there's always that too. I mean, I think my voice kind of changes also when when I'm trying to, versus like sometimes I'll be trying to do an impersonation of the singer that I'm trying to sing a song from over like just singing with my own personal voice, and sometimes that helps as well. But yes, according to Les goes, I have to say he may have upstaged you. I agree with you, Les. That was very good. Kudos, applause to Wes. Very good. That was a very good song. That was really good. You really impressed me. So there you go.
Thank you. That's the birthday song in Mexico.
Yeah. Well, there's I've never heard that one though. I've heard the Feliz Cumpleaños version, the Spanish version of the Happy Birthday song. I hadn't heard the other one. So
yeah, that's shite.
My sons probably know that song.
Yeah, that's the one.
Both of my sons probably know that song because they go to the Spanish immersion school. They just don't speak Spanish in front of us, so we don't know.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
My bilingual kids knew it already, and even in kindergarten. But my English kids learned it starting in 3rd grade. But they'd heard it before that, so
I think there was one time when
I was bilingual.
There was one time at karaoke where I was there, and like some song was playing of some patriotic song. I don't know if it was "God Bless America" or something like that, or some other like patriotic song was like playing in the background between songs or whatever. And instead of just doing my normal singing voice, I was like, "God bless America," and they were like, "What the hell is going on?" Like they never heard that from me because usually don't sing that low. So
no, that's not even Kate Smith.
So anyway, but thank you. Do you want to have anything else you want to say?
Do you think?
What?
Go ahead. Do you think I sound Southern?
Not when you sing. But your accent does sound Southern when you have your regular voice.
Okay, yeah, because I'm from the country and I'm up here with all the Swedes and stuff like that, and they think I sound Southern, and I'm from Central Illinois.
Well, I mean, Southern can also often be like rural. Like there are people from rural who can have lots of similarities to a Southern type of accent. But yeah, I mean, I could see it.
Yeah. Well, anyway, why I'm saying that even is because people automatically discount you if you sound like you come from the country.
Well, that's why Trey Crowder. I
really believe that.
The Trey Crowder, the comedian, like you first start listening to Trey Crowder, and he causes you to, I guess, disbelieve. You're like, well, what's this person about to say? And you're anticipating something, something that might be coming from a MAGA type person, and all of a sudden he starts talking liberal stuff, and you're like, whoa, what? So yeah, you have to. That's one thing. Unfortunately,
now I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Well, there's that. There's another guy too. I forget his name off the top of my head, but he has the long red beard or whatever, and he's definitely like over the top. Like, he pretends to be conservative, but then he makes liberal points by being excessively conservative.
Sure.
But
yeah,
anyway.
I've heard guys like that.
But yeah, I guess there's an unfortunate thing. Like sometimes you think if someone talks in a British accent, you might think they're more intelligent. But if someone talks like this, you might assume that they might not be very well educated.
Exactly.
But it's why.
They might be Will Rogers, or they might be what's that turd that Hal keeps showing us?
Mike Lindell,
the guy from the movies. No, the English guy.
Oh, Russell Brand.
Yeah. Russell Brand,
Brand, yes. Well, that type of British accent is more of a Cockney type of one, so that doesn't necessarily translate to being well educated. But
yeah, and Cockney people are not necessarily uneducated either. It's just the way they speak.
But I had on one of my, I haven't done a minicast in a while, but over on Anchor, the anchor.fm, if you go to minicast@liberaldan.com, one of the shows I did, I think I called the show Black Hair Don't Care, and I was talking about how we have unreasonable expectations of black people when they go to interviews and how they can't have natural hair. But I think in that episode I also talked about code switching in that one, because you have black people are very well aware that that when they're going for a job interview, that they have to present a different version of themselves. Like they might, in their home life, they might be more relaxed. They might sound differently than they would in a job interview, and that's called code switching, because they know that if they talk casually as a black person, they're less likely to get the job than if maybe a white person were to talk casually. But it's possible that you might have people from, with Southern type accents who might also need to code switch a bit if they want to be viewed as not automatically be assumed as that. And we shouldn't have to do that. People shouldn't have to do. People should be judged on who they are, not what they look like and what they sound like. But unfortunately,
I went to kind of a snobby private college, and even going there, from coming out of the country, I was top of my class in high school, and then I come in there and, they think I am a hick, and you kind of adapt the way you speak just so people don't automatically judge you on the way you're talking.
Right. Well, look, the way I started saying y'all was I was freshman year in my dorm at Tulane. One of the guys on my dorm, his girlfriend from Baton Rouge, would come visit a lot. And she would always be like, y'all, 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 y'all. And she would always use y'all. And so we would be like, y'all, 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 just kind of making fun of it or whatever. And we didn't we were trying to be mean.
Yeah.
But we were just kind of, I picked up y'all because I said, because I made fun of first, or I was mocking the y'all too much. Like I was not in a mean way, but still, I was saying y'all so much, it just clicked and it just stuck. And now I say y'all. And then the first time I went back up,
I used to say it naturally, but that was one of the things I stopped saying. You just if you say y'all instead of, and then I started saying you guys, and now I get in trouble for saying that because there's ladies. I always think of girls as guys. That's just in my brain. Shout out to my beloved witches. Erin from the west and Andrea from the east, and Jolie is the good witch from the north and south.
From both places, wow.
And Benny Loco is their queen, of course.
Sure, but no, the thing is, I went up north back home for Thanksgiving one year, and we were sitting at the Thanksgiving table, and I was like, y'all. I said, y'all doing something, and my one of my cousins, my older cousins, was like, y'all. Couldn't believe I said y'all. I'm like, yes, I've lived in New Orleans for years now. It's quite obvious that I'm going to pick up something, and I picked up y'all. Although no, I haven't.
Oh yeah, they say yuns down there. Yuns.
Yeah. All y'all. Well, there's all y'all, then there's all y'all, which is the plural of y'all. Anyway.
Yeah, well, my family, the Webbs down in central South Illinois, still say y'all.
Nice. Anything else you want to pop in before we go? Because I'm
I
probably
love
going to
you
end the show.
too, Andrea. I missed what you said.
Oh, is there anything else? Is there anything else
Dan?
that you want to say before I'm probably going to end the show soon? So, is there anything else you want to say?
No, I got really nothing to plug. I do have music, but I'm not going to force anybody to listen to it on the West Web channel, and also my other names. The right now it's called Dark Webster, and that is my old school name, and that has kid songs on it, and then WW spelled out DUBYA has other stuff that sort of covers and stuff.
Cool. Well, I'll definitely check it out and see, and I'll give it a subscribe as well. But thank you very much for calling us.
I don't make a profit or anything from it. I just have it out there for my friends to listen to.
Cool. But again, thank you for the lovely songs and for showing me up, because you did a good job.
No, I love you, Danny. You know that. I'm so jealous of Hal's attention on you. I'm not talented enough to have any show or anything like that, but I would love to talk to him on the phone for a while.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, frankly, I was shocked when it happened, and I'm glad that it's continuing to happen, that we get along so well. But yeah, It's awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Streets.
Have a good one, man.
Yeah. You too, buddy. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, so unless anybody else has anyone to talk about, I'm probably going to go ahead and end the show at this point. I think 2.5 hours has been good enough, right? I might keep the chat open a little more as the ending song plays or what have you. Let's see, sign language has accents. I guess sign language could have accents if you are speaking with your whatchamacallit. Yeah, Wes, you can call in on Saturday's show, and Hal takes calls on Saturday, and also he takes calls when he subs in on that station on the other days as well. But yeah, let's go ahead. Do the end if I can find the show end. I was going to play Chopper City first. Let's go ahead and play the first Chopper City. If I can find, there he is, Liberal Dan Chopper City. We'll do that, and then we'll go ahead and end the show.
Well, dog, down here in Liberal Dan's Chopper City, we got some steals on Harley-Davidsons today. Turns out Holden Sturgis wasn't that bright of an idea, but while festival goers pass away, we're passing on the savings to you. All our Harleys come freshly sanitized for your riding comfort, and while supplies last, we're throwing in some antibacterial gel and a 12-pack of 2-ply, just in case the stores run out again. So come on down to Liberal Dan's Chopper City and get you a hog today.
Liberal Dan Chopper City is a fictional establishment, and we don't know what the death toll of Sturgis will be.
And there you go. So that's, that was brought to you by when they held Sturgis, and I was like, really? But yeah, Sturgis may very well have caused lots of deaths, and may very well have caused more deaths than 9/11 did. But yet, we still have people in the country that didn't want to take it seriously, unfortunately. So, again, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for joining in, everybody who subscribed. Thank you as well. I appreciate it. Please make sure to share the channel. We're trying to get that 1,000. I would love to make it rain on Hal's channel sometime soon. I would love to be monetized by the end of the month. And I think if Hal does come back on in 2 weeks, we'll be able to do that. So that's the end of this week's episode of Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right. I'll be back next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Central, here on youtube.com/liberaldanradio. I'll also be on Twitch tomorrow night, 8 p.m., twitch.tv/nerdydan.com. You just go to nerdydan.com to find out, or follow me at nerdydan.com, nerdydan, D-O-T-C-O-M, all one word, on Twitter, on Facebook as well. I'm looking for some more viewers over there. If you want to play games, suggest a new game to play with me, that'd be cool too. Anyway, till the next time, this is Dan Zimmerman for Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left. That's right.